I'm doing for Fantasy Grounds. And Fantasy Grounds is getting to be the biggest pain in the we will ever see. So
that's what we've heard. Kind of heard that.
Yep.
Yeah.
For being on a Unity platform, they are really not making it good.
Yeah,
So.
Linda, I didn't put any screenshots from the last one. I think we can just mention it. We should not show it off too much.
Oh, that's fine. That's fine.
Yeah. So we can mention that latest little thingy. So Elizabeth,
they're 2D perfect thing.
2D, 3D perfect thing. Yeah.
Boom, boom, boom. Yep. So, but no, I'm looking to get into the 3D world and get away from Fantasy Grounds because I'm getting tired of it. So after 3 years, so
that's interesting.
Yeah, looking at all different kinds of things to work on.
I guess you could say I am a little bit into the 3D world, but a little different than everyone else.
Mm-hmm. We need to discuss that dimension tonight. Yeah.
Okay. It's
Sure.
Yeah, we are.
Mine's the physical.
I need to. Yeah, we're live, so I need to.
By the way, Kafir was here last night, and he's like, "You got a lot of stuff down here in your basement." I'm like, "Yeah, you know. What am I gonna say?" Oh my God, you have this entire shelf of BattleTech stuff. I'm like, "Yeah, man. I have 10. I have 10 Marauder 2s metal. Yeah, I do."
I'm not that crazy about it. I just have the last Kickstarter.
That's we were playing in since the early '90s, so we got in right with all the unseens, all the Robotech unseens. So
heck yeah, yep.
Yeah. So we got a fair amount. We don't even do clan yet. We still do post-war 3039 era when we play.
Last time I played, we were in 3025.
Oh, cool! Succession War. Yeah.
Yep, just before Succession Wars.
Nice. That's a great time. That's one of my favorites.
Jay, this is just like when we had Jared Planto on. We mentioned something cool, and Jay went on a 30-minute wonderful tangent, and before we got back again. So awesome.
I gotta mention that I play 7 Days to Die because I know it's one of Alyssa's favorites.
Oh, cool.
I play 7 Days. I play Scum. I play you name it. I'll try it. So, but yeah. I'm hoping there's good changes coming in Alpha 21 with 7 Days, but we'll see. I haven't heard anything.
The last few iterations have been really solid. I mean, you can see they've expanded their team and brought good.
They're solid, but in my opinion, not that exciting. I'm kind of like, eh.
No, but the polish is. But no, you're right. The core game is fairly shallow. It is.
Yep. But
they need to do something with that.
Yep, but their other stuff is actually getting very, very solid. Like graphically, it's getting solid. Now, if they just fix the water, that'll solve a lot of problems.
Please.
Yep.
Please. I remember joining in like Alpha 14 or something, and the first thing I wanted to do was I'm going to build a boat, and I'm going to dig from the here, and I'm going to go to the river over there, and the water will go. No, forget it. Okay, well, how about I get a bucket of water and fill a well? Oh, that there's water.
Hey, Mr. Cole.
Like
Good to
jello
see you.
cubes.
Yep.
Good to see you tonight. Thanks for hanging out there.
Yep.
Your books are on their way, by the way, from the win the other nights.
Absolutely crazy. Trying to decide what I want to do tonight.
Well, hopefully you're going to be on the show, right?
Well, maybe. I might think about it.
Awesome.
Trying to decide if I want to do Blender or Unreal Engine or something. I don't know. I just got off a really stream with Nick the Hick over on YouTube, so it wasn't a very fun day-to-day so far.
Who is that? Nick the Hick?
He does a lot of farm sim streams and ATS streams. But
we'll have to get the three of us play something. The problem is Anna does these like flight sims and everything.
I can't use a mouse and a keyboard, so I could. Linda, maybe play Diablo and stuff. So
we play Diablo once in a while. That's kind of fun.
We need to play more often. Yep.
Yeah. If we either one of us get time, yikes.
Yeah.
But we can figure something out. I'm like I said, I'm willing to try anything once. Well,
girls fight zombies.
I can fight zombies, I guess. I can try.
Oh yeah. And you can just tell us you absolutely hate the game afterwards, but you have to keep your silence during the game.
That's true. Yep.
Yep. I still love 7 Days. I always have and always will. So
I think it's the building aspect, that whole voxel building. It really, you can just go nuts, and I love
especially since they opened up the entire library of blocks now.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Yep.
There you go.
Yep. that's my big thing. Is I go on there and I build freaking castles and all kinds of stuff now.
Yeah, absolutely. That's what
Like-
you gotta do.
Phantom Kai, good to see you. Thanks for the sub, Phantom.
But yeah, I have not had a chance to look at those links yet, Anna, for the RPG tables. Have not looked at them yet. I was planning my character's demise or my PC's demise for tomorrow night. So
Yeah.
let's see.
Now I'm not even sure which links you talk. Oh, now I get it.
The
Okay.
RPG
Yep.
tables.
Yep. Okay.
Mhm.
RPG tables. Hang on a second. Now I'm not sure which one you're talking about. So, yeah.
You sent me the links in Discord on. Let me see what the names were. They were get to the right person. Too many people.
I know, it's like,
RPC Engine or RPG
Oh,
Engine.
gotcha. Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
And-
Gotcha. Mhm.
I don't
Yeah.
remember the other one.
Yeah, they were a little bit for the same one
Yeah.
that put in the PDF for Alyssa and Jane. So yeah,
Oh, okay, cool. Yeah, I was gonna look at them and then I was like busy
It's
working
okay,
on
I
my
put
more
planning for
in,
tomorrow
yeah.
night. So, but
I
Yeah.
post them
Tina,
in
thanks.
chat as we go along here. So,
Mhm.
so, yeah.
let's see. What do I want to work on? Don't
So-
really feel like working on Unreal tonight.
got a quickie. So last night when Kafir was here, he, you know, he's not doing cons anymore. So he's like, so if you shout me out here and there for the next 6 months, basically me be a minor sponsor, I'll leave you every single print I have of the Greyhawk map, and you can do with them what you want, give them out or whatever. So he gave me like 11 of them, Anna, of those really great Kafir prints.
Okay.
He gave me 3 of the high-res ones on the special canvas and 8 that are on the standard, well, still the
Oh,
nice
wow.
paper. Yeah, so I got a whole bunch of them here now. I gave one out
Okay.
last night during the stream.
Okay, so then
Curtis
we have-
got it.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah, so we got a whole bunch of those Greyhawk maps that Computer did. Yeah.
And
I have my own.
Chat will go bunkers already. I bet. Oh, most of them heard it yesterday. So yeah.
Yeah, pretty neat. It's good. He says he's probably not coming to GaryCon this year, which is a shame.
Yeah.
Because I know Alyssa and he was hanging out with Kafir a lot. That you guys had your spot on the couch at GaryCon, right?
Yeah.
You and
Well,
Larry
yeah.
Elmore and that whole crew.
He's the guy that won't leave me alone. What can I say? You know. Now he's a cool guy. I mean, and we only get to hang out like once a year. I
Yeah.
That's the thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
We're almost.
Great that he gave you those maps. I'm gonna have to actually do the draw. I want one of those maps because I want to put it in Bill Meinhardt's museum.
Okay.
Mhm.
What museum?
Bill Meinhardt, you know,
Darling.
just before GaryCon this year, you might have saw the photos. He has this incredible, the collection of role-playing materials anywhere in the world. The most, and I'm talking about immaculate condition.
Then
you
we
name
should
it,
try
he's
and
got
give
it.
him and Alex Cammer a copy each for their because they
There
are
you
the
go. That would be
museum
appropriate, yeah.
curators. Kind of, yeah, they're building a RPG museum, so that might be a good idea.
Like Alex Cameron's got a great collection.
Oh
Bill
yeah.
Meinhardt's takes your breath away. I did a video of it, and it just goes on
Here, all the
Yeah.
and on and on. He's got it all.
Well, that's cool.
Yeah, so well, I wanna win a copy.
And so I haven't switched out. I still have the Starship Warden controller, but okay. So always a mistake here and there. Steven's back from the UK. He was there for a week and a half, I think, Alyssa.
Oh, I missed that.
Yeah.
I'm meant to be doing a super secret project with him. You know, I'm gonna make a note because I keep forgetting about it.
No, it's not that secret. You talked about it. If you haven't mentioned it.
Well, the good thing is now, yeah, we'll get you in on that Altimer next meeting or discussion and figure out. Got to get some dates set down. Things are coming. All right, but we're real early. But you guys all three don't care, right? If we go on live a couple minutes early.
I'm just worried about the audience, but I don't think. Hopefully, they don't care having to talk to us.
Oh, we got a decent audience on for Friday night.
I have a really bad habit of not watching chat. So if anybody sees anything toward me, just holler out.
Okay.
When I get busy working on something, it's like, yeah.
Anna watches it like a whore, so.
Oh no, I
Good,
wouldn't
good,
say
good.
that, but I have it here just at this Zoom. So yeah.
And trust me, I have the likes. We had the likes, Linda. About 40 episodes of Leonard LaKafka, who never looked at the chat.
Oh, exactly.
Oh,
Yeah.
jeez.
And Ed Greenwood doesn't look at the chat either, whatever Ed's on. So, yeah.
So I'm in light company then. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
Now you have
absolutely.
and now Linda, you have the secret code. You might start doing like Len and pop in and just say hi and then pop out again.
Yeah,
Yep.
that was great.
Let's see.
It was awesome. He just popped in to say something and then he popped out again. It was awesome.
Let's see. Did I hit it somewhere? Where did I hide it?
And we get to our entry screen tonight at 16th episode. Actually, so I guess we had 16 and a half if we count the Cthulhu game last. We had 2 last month.
Yeah, and a special or offshoot.
Yeah, that was
whatever you
awesome.
call it. Yeah.
That Call of Cthulhu game was a lot of fun.
That was, and something's wrong, Alyssa. I've been in 2 games and I haven't gone insane or died in either one. So I'm like,
Those are the best ones to me. You know what it's like? I mean, at every convention, you've got the type of game where the objective is to kill the players and how long can they survive.
right.
And Call of Cthulhu falls into that camp, but so does Dungeons and Dragons, you know? And then you've got the other ones where it's just a really rocking good time. And the players play smart, they win.
And that's
you've been in 2 of those.
awesome.
But that could have gone bad. That could have gone real bad. No one fights a goal, like, at all. No, if we stood to fight, we'd all get.
Tim just put it out there too. The people insane in real life usually survive Call of Cthulhu. So I guess that's good point, Tim.
Well, then I should fit just fine. Let's see.
Fun discussion tonight.
Yeah, I was seeing the things that Anna and Linda had gathered together. Even I'm curious about what we're talking about tonight.
Yeah, there's a lot of cool stuff. A lot of cool stuff going on. And I'm definitely loving Unreal. It's just a challenge, though. Definitely a challenge.
Yeah, I couldn't resist this topic due to a couple of Kickstarters that came out. And when you suggest we put Linda on the show, then that sealed the deal. So there was no going back.
I'm jonesing for this conversation with Linda, I really am.
Well, good. I'm glad somebody is, because I am choosing to have conversations with everybody. So.
That was awesome. Oh, that was funny.
All right, let's see if I can.
Good evening, everyone. We're 6 minutes early, but who gives a shit, right? So, I always love popping on early. We get a little extra chat here. I'm J.K. Lord Gazumba, our monthly fantasy mapping show with me, always the legendary Alyssa Faden and Anna Meyer. Good evening, and we have a very special guest tonight. Please welcome everyone, Linda Buth. Linda, welcome.
Hello, thank you very much.
Thank you so very much.
Stop it, listen. Jeez.
So
Jeez.
let's discuss the topic and how, Linda, how you tie into this, because I know they were excited that you were able to come on tonight. So, and Anna, talk about how you brought up the topic, the third dimension.
Well, I wanted to. There's a couple of reasons. One is that we have Linda as a guest because she works in 3D a lot, so to speak. And the other is that now, thanks to a whole bunch of publishers, including Wizard of the Coast, and now a bunch of other Kickstarters, 3D virtual tabletops are starting to become a thing fast, so to speak. So and then we have game engines and a whole bunch of stuff. And I wanted to kind of tie in both to old school, really old school, because 3 dimensions on the tabletop is nothing new.
No.
Jay is a prime example of that with Build a Master Crafter and all the miniatures and terrain and stuff. We've had 3D on the tabletop for as long as we played D&D, even before, because wargaming, where it came from, had it, so to speak. So D&D kind of inherited it at its inception to have 3 dimensions on the tabletop, but now it's starting to come into the digital realm as well. So I wanted to kind of kick off a little bit of both a discussion, and I put together a little bit of key points, so to speak, that we can introduce, and also a lot of interesting and some horrifying too, maybe, examples of how to go about doing this, and also because there's a lot of different dimensions to this, more than 3, so to speak. There's a couple of other philosophical game, meaning what type of games do you want to run, etc., and where do you run them, and so on and so forth. That was a little bit. And then since Linda works a lot in 3D, doing 3D buildings and assets and stuff like that for games, so I thought that was
for myself. I have not done it for a game yet. I'm working on it.
Yeah,
yep. Working on it though.
Yep.
So listen, this is not your great wheelhouse, but are you attempting to start incorporating a little bit of this into what you do or in your games that you play in this realm of 3D?
No, you're right. That these two ladies are definitely in a slightly different realm than me, and that will show tonight, folks. Because I will probably say very little. But I am actually dabbling in world building right now in using Unity. Funny enough, which is a massive undertaking because now you've got to learn C#. Well, okay, that's a thing that I'm doing apparently in my free time. But I have got. I've got height maps, I've got modified height maps, I've got 3D terrain getting built from that, I've got water erosion, and so on and so forth. And
you're ahead of me in game engines, way ahead of me.
Plate activity. No, Anna, you're chasing me. What are you kidding me right now? It's like, oh no, Anna's gonna see what I'm doing in Unity.
You saw what I did in Unity. It wouldn't be much to see. So you're ahead.
All I want to do is I want to be able to create a terrain. Yeah. I want to be able to populate that terrain procedurally. I want to be able to put water on that terrain. I want to have rivers flowing down the terrain. I want to be able to stand on it. That's it. It's not even a game. I want to be able to create it. And Anna, you and I briefly spoke about this. I'd love to be able to get to a point where I could take one of your maps and just import it. And therefore have a version that we can walk around in, so to speak. That's what I'm doing in my world. But outside of that, I'm strictly a 2D or even a 1D gal.
Well, I will tell you right now, you have more guts than I do because I would never tackle C# ever, or C++ or any of those for doing 3D. Nope. I'll let Unreal do the lifting for me.
I will be in the middle, so to speak. I will tackle it to somewhat, so to speak, but I will never. I know my limitations. I will never be a sharp at C# or
hell no,
or C, so to speak. But I will understand. I want to learn the basics so I can understand it somewhat. So to speak.
Like I told Alyssa in one of my Facebook posts, I said I'll let Unreal do the heavy lifting because I have no time and I cannot wrap my brain around programming. So it's like, nope, I'll do the visual stuff. Thanks.
Fun fact about me that you guys may not know is I actually used to be a programmer full time. Back around 1998 is when I started getting into it, and I was pretty good until I got promoted out of the position, and now it's a whole new learning experience. And that's programming back then I was using a completely different language. But yeah, it's a journey. It is a journey.
But like you say, it's kind of like riding a bike. Once you do it for so long, it just needs a few kicks here and there to get it started again. It's like, okay, let's get rid of the lumpy wheel. Okay, it's getting smoother. And all of a sudden it'll just take off full bore. And for me, I still got the lumpy wheel going because I don't know Unreal for anybody, but I'm trying. So, but yeah, I'm having a lot of fun with it because there's such a demand for 3D out there that I think I can find a niche anywhere if I really, really try hard enough.
Oh, for sure.
And if it wasn't for Anna, I wouldn't even have started in 3D because I met you, 3-4 years ago now?
Yeah, something like that. 4 years, I think.
And you challenged me to start trying 3D. And
I simply say I needed 3D building, so get on doing it. So
basically what you said. And at that time, I downloaded Blender and had no clue what the hell I was doing. Watched a ton of YouTube videos, figured out enough, and got myself in trouble enough that I was able to turn around and figure out how to get myself out of those pickles again. And then I got burned out on it because I was working too hard at it, and I took almost a year break, and I'm slowly coming back to it so I don't burn myself out again. But now I'm tackling Unreal Engine and learning how to do landscape materials, which are very complicated. I was watching some stuff this morning that my eyes just crossed. I was like, huh? And it was a lot, but I'm having a ball doing it. So,
So two quick things. The Frog Out Games giveaway, $25 gift certificates up, at least one, okay? And it's exclamation point drawing. And Alyssa, in her background, everyone, has the colorized part of the colorized Wampum Greyhawk City in her background, everyone. So just
She
note
looks
it's there.
fabulous.
Yeah, just so you know all that. So so Linda, so Anna got you into this. So what's your background from in the gaming industry or
well, in
hobby?
real life, my background is retail and warehouses and weird stuff like that,
Okay.
typical stuff. But then through Anna, I met Wolfgang from Kobold Press. And one night he was on Facebook complaining on how hard it was to get projects done for Fantasy Grounds. And I said, I know how to do Fantasy Grounds modules. I said, can I help? And he says, oh God, can you? And that's 3 years ago now that I've been doing their Fantasy Grounds conversions for him.
Okay.
But if I hadn't met Anna, I wouldn't have that as my main job now. So
very cool.
Thank you again, Anna.
Oh, you're welcome. This is awesome. Yep.
Yep.
And then you work at a game store too. So
I do. I'm part-time at a game store locally,
Yep.
and helping them with inventory issues, I think. I'm not quite sure on that one. They keep saying things like that, and then I don't hear anything more on it for the next 3 weeks. So whatever.
Okay.
But it's my spending money for when I want to splurge on some D&D stuff or things like that. So works good.
All right. So where do we start in this discussion? Like, it sounds like, Linda, when you came on, you're tired of 2D. You're tired of 2D VTTs. Is that what I get?
Yep.
Explain what. Explain why.
To me, the industry has gone, and this is my opinion only, it's gone way too cartoonish for me in their maps. Alyssa's maps aside, because you have a level of detail that a lot of other mappers don't have. But there's a lot of stuff that major producers put out that I'm not happy with anymore. So I've taken that to another step where I've taken battle maps and made 3D buildings on top of them and 3D lands and trying to build a map that makes me happy to play on. And it's just a personal passion of mine is to keep things more exciting than what the current industry is doing. They're pumping out right and left books and maps and cards and pawns and stuff like that. And it's just insane how much they're putting out. But to me, there's a definite lack of quality in some of the products. So I've been struggling with that for a long time since I started playing Ravenloft back in the 1992. The maps there were good for the time, but now they're just, nah. That's just me. Oh, there's my Temple of Elemental Evil. Yep.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. So I got a lot of stuff scrolling through, and I can blow them up on the screen.
Yep.
So, so for example, if we'll go here, and I brought this up to have a background. So, all right. Well, you must have. Is this a full 3D rendering, and what program? And can you walk inside this?
Not yet.
Okay.
I plan on taking that in. It was originally created in Blender about 3 years ago when I first started. So I didn't have a clue what the hell I was doing. I managed to build myself flying buttresses and all that stuff. And then I had the cover of the temple PDF to work from, which was an old wrinkled copy. So I didn't have clear graphics there either. But I think I did a fair job on that. And then I'm going to refine it, and I'm going to take it into Unreal and do the actual texturing and make it full 3D render with all the trees and the spooky atmosphere, all that stuff. That's my hope for that one. Haven't got there yet. I've got too many other projects in the works at the moment. I've got to get taken care of first. But that is one of my passions, is to try and make some of the Greyhawk iconic buildings. And one of my favorites is the Green Dragon Inn. I want to make a 3D rendering of that, and then the temple was another one, because I saw the drawing of it and it was just, oh my God, I got to do this, because it was complicated, and I could learn through blood, sweat, and tears basically how to do all this stuff. And that was done with, I think it was Blender 2.79, which was an old clunky version. And now I work in Blender 3.3 or something like that.
Okay.
And yeah, that was one of my first projects. And I'm sure there's a ton of errors that I need to fix in it. So
we're kind of working toward what you want to do with our Free City of Altamira project. That trying to do the entire area, zoom in to a building, and then that building almost be renderable completely, and then
Mhm.
have one of my 3D partners actually have a 3D
I was
model
going
printed
to
of
say,
it.
yeah,
So-
make it STL is one
Yes,
one
in
other way
STL
of
files. Yeah.
using it. Yeah. Mhm.
Wow.
Yep.
We
STLs can
actually, we
STLs can be
actually have a
very tricky
question
though.
too on that.
Yeah, from Chuck.
Linda.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, Baboonski says, "Are you planning on importing these into software like Tailspire, etc.?"
I just recently started working with Tailspire and with what is it called? Tabletop Simulator.
Yeah.
So I just recently started digging into them, so I'm not 100% sure what's going to happen with those yet. But I would love to make this into a model for that. Unfortunately, if you guys can see the little tiny square in front of the temple,
Yeah.
the little white block
thing, that's
Yeah,
a
that's-
that's a human.
that's a 6-foot tall human.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
To show you the scale that
Mhm.
that thing is.
Yeah.
So in order to use it in these tabletops, I would have to shrink the model considerably, which would lose a lot of detail.
Yeah.
But I'm going to play with a lot of that and see what
Yeah.
I can do.
And that was one of the things that when I put together a
Oops.
list of the 3D virtual tabletop, and their scope is one thing I want to
yes,
talk
yes.
about, because they vary so much in what they're able to do and what their niche is, so to speak, or their kind of the idea behind them varies way more than you can normally think, so to speak.
Mhm.
And because they're all like, oh, it's a platform to play D&D,
Hey,
but
Cincy.
it's very, very different platforms in a lot. They might look similar on the screenshot, but they have very, very different capabilities, for good and bad. There is
Mhm.
none to
Mhm.
cover all bases, so to speak. I'm not saying that some are better. It's not. I say they're different depending on your play style and the type of game you want to play. There are different ones, and yeah, in the form of clunkiness or depth or whatever you want to call it. There is a good side and a bad side to a lot of features too.
Mhm.
But this is something I want to hopefully we can tie into both everything from big landscape maps where you can have point of interest and stuff, and to
Mhm.
city maps, settlement maps and stuff, and even 3D models to put on the game table. So there is a lot of possibilities here.
And
Go ahead.
yeah, sorry
That's
to
okay.
interrupt, Jake, but
No, go for it.
to be totally honest, I see a couple questions about where you can find my stuff. I truly don't have anything out there yet because I've been playing in the background trying to learn all this stuff, and I'm like, oh, my stuff's not that good.
We are dragging Linda out of into the limelight here. So yeah,
I'm an introvert through and through, so
Out
you're
of the
probably not going to see
Wolfgang
me on social
shadow.
media or anything like that. But I'm going to be starting putting together stuff, and with Anna's help, we're going to figure out a way for me to get some of these models. Once I make them available to the public, I'm going to be figuring out a way to do it. But for right now, I'm just focusing on trying to get myself back into the swing of 3D. It's been a year and a half that I took off because I was just totally burned out on it, because I was trying too hard. I was digging, 8-9 hours a day trying to figure out how to do landscape materials, how to do all this different stuff. And I saw a question from, I think it was Valendar back a ways. Yes, you can use normal maps to create a lot of the detail on these buildings. But if it's not a highly detailed normal map or bump map, it does not give you the kind of detail that 3D rendering does. So that's why I chose to do all the 3D rendering on the temple. So, and that is one that I desperately need to clean up and make it very efficient so I can actually make it into a 3D model that somebody can play with. So
Linda, we have connections with Tailspire. John at Blue Box knows their owners real well. I'll be able to connect you
cool.
right in with them.
Yep.
Plus, I have the 3D printer connections to convert all these into STLs and actually have them sort of rendered so they can be models.
Nice.
And that's the thing.
Nice.
That's the step where I am excited about, right? So, for example, for our package here, when we're talking about the city box that we're doing, we want 3D rendered terrain. We want city 3D rendered, the buildings 3D rendered, and we want an Alyssa map that is for playable purposes. That everyone, we want it all. We want the entire package. So, I see a mix of all 3D and 2D, and how they complement each other in the, and that's a really cool thing.
Well, for right now, on my second screen on my thing right now, I have the Wamp map, which Anna was nice enough to give me a piece of.
A piece.
And I'm working on making it a 3D rendering. So we'll see what I can come up with.
Oh, one of the building, like one of the areas. and want for 3D?
The entire map is my hope I can get it done. I'm just laying out the building blocks right now to try and see what I can do, and then
Oh my gosh!
it's gonna be made to Alyssa's drawing though. It's not gonna be my freehand stuff. All the buildings are gonna match her style. They're gonna be basically I'm gonna trace the outline of each one of them, and then I'm just gonna make them into 3D. So
wow.
that one's gonna be a month or so, maybe more, before I can get it finished,
Say, wow,
or even partially finished, because again, Kobold Press has 2 major releases coming out that I'm working on. I have my home life, I have a elderly mother, you know, all that stuff.
Oh,
so
yeah, absolutely.
but I'll get to things as quickly as I can. But
very cool.
I still have a lot to learn too.
And we're all jumping all over the place here. So yeah, Bill, it'd be really awesome. I'm assuming it's easier to render in black and white, right? The black and white is the way to go.
Black and white is a good way to go. I can texture this actually in Blender and make it full color 3D scene and everything.
Right.
I choose not to do that because Blender is much more clunky to work in than Unreal is.
That's awesome.
So, but with Anna's help, I can make some good looking textures to put on these things.
Nice. Okay, so Anna, where should we start on this discussion with like all the programs? I know you got some in here.
Yeah, I was thinking we should start thinking first. Is 3D virtual tabletop a good idea to begin with, and if so, for who? and I think that's a good question. I saw Ian World had an interesting poll done back in July this year. They had a poll: what kind of virtual tabletop do you want? And there was several thousand answers to it, and it seems like 7.5% don't want to use VTTs at all. They're like, no, I don't VTT. And 20% want a bare bones VTT, meaning just Zoom, and meaning audio, video, like we do in Zoom, and a
place to put maps. I got it.
Yeah, or scribble, and that's it, so to speak. Nothing more than that. And then 50% want to have a simple top-down, just smack an image on top of it. More like Owlbear Rodeo is a good example of that simplicity. No automation, no fancy stuff, so to speak. Just a simple, basic stuff. And then high quality, another 40%, and now we're almost up to 90%, so to speak. They want to have a fancy 2D version that is more like Foundry, Fantasy Grounds, that have lighting, that have vision and stuff like that. Roll20 and so on. They want fancy functions and stuff like that. And all they want automation and vision control and a whole bunch of stuff like that, fancy top down. And now we're up to like 90%, roughly, or almost 90%. And then non-immersive 3D. I'm not really sure that it says like CRPG. I'm not really sure what that is, but I take it as some sort of simple 3D. That's another 7%. And now it's only 9-10% left. And so immersive 3D, but not VR or AR, that's another 5% on top. And then we have people that want actually VR, virtual reality or augmented reality. That's another measly 3.8% at the top, so to speak. So we can tell that the interest for 3D tabletops are not that great. It's a 10-15% or so far, 6 months ago. But I think that is about to change, and the main reason for that is that it's big money behind these tools coming out. When Wizard of the Coast are hell-bent on making D&D players use a 3D virtual tabletop powered by Unreal, I think it was, in 2024, and make it one big thing for D&D. I think we as D&D players, if you play D&D and if you play other role-playing games, fantasy role-playing games or similar ones, then you need to at least ask yourself, are these kind of tools something for me or not, so to speak?
Right.
And And I think that's and then we have to look into it. And now the other, that's one of the reason I wanted to kind of cover this topic in the early days, because there's only a few contenders so far, is that now there's a whole wave of them coming. There's 2 big Kickstarters in this field launching the same week.
Wow.
And that's when I thought that, okay, we need to talk about this early on, so we can go back in 3-4 years and see if any of the things that we talked about will actually come true, or if we were horribly wrong. I like to do these kind of predictions and then go back and see myself.
Let me ask all 3 of you a question.
Mhm.
Okay. I'll answer mine first. I use Fantasy Grounds only when Tim is DMing remotely, and I'm just producing it, and it's just for maps. That's it.
Mhm.
You know, with
Yep.
with my real
Mhm.
tabletop. Okay,
Mhm.
Alyssa, what do you utilize when you use VTT currently? 0.
Honestly, a little bit like someone said in the chat.
Photoshop
I
layers.
I'll I'll typically Twitch stream it. I'm going to do a layout a little bit like this. I'm going to get my players in there. I'm going to have the center area available for sharing, props and things and images and things like that. I end up like using Photoshop actually in the background. That's the thing.
Yeah,
Okay.
so you fall into the bare bones
Yeah.
Zoom.
I'm kind of bare bones,
yeah.
but disclaimer. I remember I lost my group a few months ago.
Yeah.
I'm not even playing at all right now. Once I climb back into the saddle, I'm probably going to entertain virtual a little bit more. At least for me right now, virtual has that thing where, okay, it's a little bit like this. If one other person talks, every volume is equal. You can't just lean to one side and have a little side conversation with someone. And I miss that. I miss the in-person ability to, have those little side conversations or whatever, do little side planning. I think that's one strength of in-person. And right now, virtual takes that out. It's a little bit more robotic. Each person take your turn. You can have a great game, and I've won and played in some brilliant games. We had one on the channel only a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah, great Cthulhu game.
And I can see me doing more of that. I had some bad experiences with Roll20. I just don't think at the time, at least, when COVID hit and everything, it wasn't a great platform for a lot of reasons. So I'm not sure I would ever go back to Roll20. I would be open if I'm going to do this. I will do it way more immersive. I don't know if I want to wear a headset. I'm not sure I'm there, but I would love to see more of put me in it. Put me in the dungeon, fully immersive, or give me a 3D terrain. Something like what Linda likes looking at. Give me a great experience with great lighting and a little bit more immersive that way. I would want that. I just haven't had a reason, and I haven't seen it out there yet.
Linda, what? Yeah.
Yep.
For me, I play basically a hybrid. When I play online, I'll use something like Fantasy Grounds for the mapping and the character movement on the token movement. But other than that, it's all paper and dice on each person's part, because they don't like the automation form of Fantasy Grounds. And to be honest, I find Fantasy Grounds a wonderful product. I'm not saying anything bad about it, but it's just not for me. The automation is not where I want to see it, being on a Unity platform. And the graphics are meh, in my opinion, but they're working on it. I'm going to give them kudos there. They are working on it, but it's just not my cup of tea, and neither is Roll20. I've tried both. Roll20 is not for me either. I actually am really eyeing up Owlbear Rodeo right now, because thanks to Anna, because it's one of those platforms that is super simple to run. It's run in a browser, so you don't have to have a huge demand on your computer. You don't have people hook up via computer. They can do on an iPad, telephone, whatever you want to do. So yeah, I'm a hybrid user. I used to be full VTT when I first met Anna, and then now I'm just nah. I'll do hybrid. I'm good.
And for me, it was interesting because I started with high hopes. I tested out Fantasy Grounds, I tested out and Roll20 to begin with, and went whole hog in for a few months on Roll20 first, and then I went in Fantasy Grounds and got myself a full license, and we used it for almost 2 years. And automation, I realized no, I don't want automation. I realized that no, because I want a house rule. I want to be able to house rule, put my own information there, and it was too difficult. And you have to sit it using the client. So Owlbear Rodeo was I fall into now, I think, perfectly into that 50% group that want the bare bones 2D top down, so, or the unobtrusive 2D top down, the 50%. Right now I'm perfectly in that. I want no automation. I want to put my big maps in there, and I want to move tokens around and have a measurement, and that's it. I don't want any fancy lighting effects and all that stuff. It was fun to use it, but it took out so much time to prep. And I want to be a little bit more kind of just throw tokens in there, and like you would do on a real table, but in digital format. But in the future, I bet in 5 years, I'm definitely sure that there will be a 3D tool good enough for me to move to, but I think it will take that long to do it. And we will list a whole bunch in the next hour that might, one of them might be the one, but they're not there for me yet, so to speak. So I might actually work on producing stuff for them before I will use them.
So I'm going to be a snob here.
Yeah.
I guess I'm the ultimate 3D player, because when I play on my table.
That depends on what you mean by ultimate.
Oh, well, yeah. I mean,
Yep.
we have the miniatures, terrain, 8 foot by 8 foot play table, and we try
Yep.
and that's what we attempt to do. So
If I had the space and the money for that, I would definitely beat you. But right now, I'm just so wrapped up in creating the 3Ds that you use that it's,
right,
big deal for me.
exactly. And
So,
it's just we've always, with Bill doing all the great work and all the sponsors, it has exploded like in the last couple of years. Joust setups and stuff.
And it is fantastic.
I'm trying to wet Alyssa's whistle here, because Alyssa's participating in the Grand Joust of Altamira coming up, so she's going to have, and she wants Luke's ass. She wants to knock Luke's character right off. So we're excited about that. But just to say that there are a lot of programs. I guess we could discuss them.
And I want to bring in, when it comes to VTTs, and especially 3D VTTs, I want to first diverge them into two groups.
Okay.
One is the one that are genuine tabletop simulators. They want to digitize the classic game table, and I think that the most kind of the one that's been around is Tabletop Simulator. That really takes a physical table, put it in a computer game basically, and you can look at it on your screen through VR, AR, whatever, and it's a 3D tabletop where you put 3D miniatures, 3D terrain, or 3D board game or whatever you play. It's a digital simulation of the game, literal game table with all the cards or the markers or the miniatures and all that. That's one category. And then you have the other category that are like a video game. It's like Skyrim, but done for tabletop role-playing game. It's like an engine to simulate a world that you can run your D&D campaign in, so to speak.
That's my ultimate goal, is to have like the world of Greyhawk in Unreal, where you can have say you start out with a globe kind of look from the very top, and you have highlights on the globe, and then you click one of those and it zooms down to the city level, and you can walk around the city. Would be something I would find absolutely just mind-blowing.
Well, I agree too, but I'm 20 years away from that, so to speak. So the technology is coming faster than you can imagine. If you asked me that 2 years ago, I would say it was almost impossible to do it. And wait until we've done with these 2 hours, because this is way closer than any of you.
Alyssa says is the VR and the augmented reality would be my ultimate, but that is such a bear to program. I haven't touched on that yet, so.
Yeah. And I'm using VR for my flight sims, and we have a whole planet. But that technology, it's 10 years before I want to sit 4 hours with a VR headset or an AR headset instead of a screen to talk to people. So that because you need to be able to face scan and stuff like that. But it's coming. I'm pretty sure that in 10 years that technology is probably mature enough that I want to use it for a 4-hour game session. But we're not there yet. But when it comes to 3D virtual tabletops, some of them are pure tabletop simulators. They want to recreate the D&D miniatures and the terrain and stuff. And some of them are more almost pure world visualizers, so to speak, in a way. And then there's some of them that are in between, so to speak. They
Okay.
have some world building but their roots might be in the tabletop. And so let's start. There's a couple of screenshots of tabletop simulators. So show them a little bit, because there are several people in chat that already knows about tabletop simulator, because it's been that's
No.
Battle Map IO. So
Oh, is that? Oh,
tabletop simulator. So yeah,
Let me go.
And
I named
just
the file.
recently picked up Tabletop Simulator, and from what I see, I really like it.
Yeah.
So
it's cool. But it's not. And first we have to say, it's not a tool to play D&D or tabletop role-playing games. So you can play Monopoly, you can play card games, you can play anything that you play around a table. You're supposed to visualize. Here is a screenshot of what D&D can look like on the tabletop. So you can, and it can look primitive or it can look advanced, because it's basically more like a basic game that you put whatever content you want in. There's content packages to purchase. You can bring in a lot of your own models and stuff. And if you have fancy models and fancy stuff and a lot of plugins and things, you can even have things like character sheets. You can have dice, you can have tokens for money, and you can do tabletop simulator. The ceiling is really high. It can automate an enormous amount of stuff. But the problem is that to get that point, you need a lot of plugins, you need a lot of work, you need to put it.
Not so much.
That's what everybody complains when I read forums and stuff. They complain a lot.
I've been playing with it a little bit the last couple of weeks, and there's a lot of assets that you just download them from the workshop.
Perfect. Yeah,
and
good.
I mean, there's thousands of models. You can play Warhammer with full models. You can play all these things. And I didn't see anything huge on plugins. Like I said, I just downloaded it, so I haven't had a lot of time. But from what I've seen and the little bit I've played with it, it's freaking amazing.
Oh yeah,
I mean,
it is really cool.
I saw Tailspire like 2 years ago when it first came out. I was like, oh, I gotta have it. And I'm like, nope. Wait until it comes out a little more. Keep it going until it develops a little better.
We have a couple. We have a couple channels that stream, other channels that stream with Tailspire now.
And we will get to Tailspire, but Tailspire is a slightly different beast from Tabletop Simulator. First of all, Tabletop Simulator is more generic tabletop simulator. It really tries to simulate what Jay has in his basement, where he can play Monopoly, old board games, BattleTech, whatever, so to speak. That's what Tabletop Simulator is trying to do. And I think it's like $25 or $30 or something on Steam. So it's not super expensive. And then there's a bunch of, there's a Steam workshop where you can download all sorts of stuff that other users have done. And they're also downloadable extra content that I don't know how the quality of the price of, but it has its own community with stuff. So there's a lot, if you play anything that has thousands of other players, they might very well be someone who developed stuff for you to put in there. So it's a very, very versatile platform and very interesting and been around a while. So I don't think it had that many basic bugs are ironed out by now. So it's a fairly stable product, I think, because it's been out for like 4 or 5 years, I think, since its early inception. So that, and then there was another one I found that I didn't know about until I started researching this a couple of days ago, and that's 3D virtual tabletop. It was simply, I Googled 3D virtual tabletop and someone stole the name on its product. And I can post a link.
Which one is that? I don't have a pic for it, I don't think.
It's a 3D virtual tabletop. There is a pic somewhere, I think, in there. So I'm going to.
I have RPG Engine, RPG Story, screenshot.
Hang on a second. No, it's not really. I post a link. It's not much to brag about, to be honest.
Okay.
It's
time.
So I put the link in there. People can look at it. It's basically a very, very simple tool that you put a flat image, and then you can put like these tokens, these flat things that you have a little holder, and you put like a piece of cartoon or cardboard in it with a print on it. It's a digitized version of that. So it's super simple and it runs, but it's it's the very, very basic of a 3D virtual tabletop, and it can't do any fancy stuff, but it's the
Okay.
very, very basic, but I think it runs on almost anything. So in that sense, and it's been around for a few years and hasn't got much traction, but I thought I had to mention it because they stole the name, which I think is kind of shows that you're early on, so to speak.
Okay.
And then we're getting into, these were two that I think are really like simulate a tabletop. That's what they want to do. And now we have a category that I would say are somewhat away from, they're not just try to simulate a table digitally, so to speak. They try to put the experience. Well, we have to mention one D&D. They come in, I'll mention them. We talk about them separately because there will be a huge thing when it comes out. But so we have one category that are a category that wants to make a new kind of digital experience when it comes to play D&D. They still want to have D&D with miniatures and kind of a tabletop, but the table is no longer trying to be simulated, so to speak. You can make a slightly bigger world, and you can start building things, and you can do lots of cool stuff. And they make things that possible that you can't do in the real world, so to speak. You can build all sorts of cool things and dungeons under it, and put in models, and you can kind of mold them on the table itself, and various cool stuff. And that's where Tailspire comes in, because it has some.
I don't think I have a
cool-
Tailspire pick either.
No, yeah. Hang on a second. Haven't you synced it? Hang on a second. Now I need to go in here.
Oh no! You put more in. Anna always puts more in after the
No,
fact.
I put in. Hang on a second. I put in. Did I put in Tailspire? No, I didn't put in a Tailspire. So yeah, I did. I thought people knew it from Blue
That's
Box
okay.
and stuff. So,
Yeah, Blue Box uses Tailspire, so that's okay.
yeah, it's tailspire.com. So hang
Mhm.
on a second. I'll
problem.
put the link here. So yeah.
Boy, but you need a monster. So I know this. If you're going to stream Tailspire and have Zoom connection with all your people
Mhm.
playing and broadcast out of the high resolution, you better have a monster machine and a great internet
Yep.
connection. That's the one problem with
Well,
it.
it's a full-blown computer game. It runs on. I'm not exactly sure with Tailspire which game engine, or if they have they effectively have a game engine. It uses the GPU, the CPU, and a whole bunch of RAM and all that, just like any computer game does.
Yeah.
Because it is a computer game geared towards playing D&D, tabletop D&D. That's basically what it is. And they are really cool. And I like the style of Tailspire, that is slightly cartoonish, not too much, just a little bit cartoonish. And that is something I really like, because believe it or not, I always try to, on my maps in the large area, to look photoreal, but I don't want to be super photoreal when it comes to the little details, because I want to keep a little bit of that theater of the mind going when it comes to the actual close-up scene, so to speak. And it's partially due to laziness and stuff. So but now I've been babbling for 5 minutes, and there's a whole bunch of go through, but so yeah.
Well, it's all good. What 3D VTTs have any of you played on, where someone else was using or dabbled with? Alyssa, have you done any? Have you played with in Dungeon Alchemist or any of the programs? Have you
3D? No, not at all.
None at all. Okay.
Nothing.
Yeah, I've tested a few. I've tested
Josh.
Tailspire, BattleMap.io, Alchemist, Dungeon Alchemist, Tabletop Simulator. I've tested half of the ones that are on the list today. So at least for like an hour or two to play around with them.
And Linda, how about you?
I recently picked up the Tabletop Simulator, like I said, because it has the 3D function that I'm looking for. But I don't know how detailed you can go with some of the terrain and things. From what I've seen, I see a lot of quite clunky terrain at this moment, but who knows? It could be something really fantastic that nobody knows is available in there. That's my hope anyway. I looked at Dungeon Alchemist a little bit, and also Tailspire. Haven't picked up either one of them because, again, my players are all hybrid players. They don't like the full 3D, nor do I have the technology available to my players that they can sit around a virtual table and play.
Right.
I have to play in person, so I use an old TV on my table with Fantasy Grounds running that I can use my map on And then everything else is done pen and paper and dice. And they seem to love it because I can run theater of the mind without having to mess around with loading this or hiding this or putting this lighting effect on, or you know, spending hours creating a map and putting the occluders in to block the walls and different things like that. I just covered up with paper and they're like, oh, okay, we're hidden. Good. You know, and that they don't mind. But I would definitely love to get them into playing with something like Tailspay or something like that. But again, like Jay says, it is a beast of a system to run. So, which unfortunately I do not have. Currently, I just run a Ryzen 7 with 32 gigs of RAM, so I don't have a beast system like Anna does. So,
well, mine is roughly on that part too. More RAM, but not that.
Yeah, but I've heard what your dream computer is. So
yeah, I'm getting
for this year.
Yeah. But put it this way, I'm going to beg and plead for an old one of yours. We'll put it that way. But no, for me, it's just, to me, is a great fun to play in it, and I would love to do it as a career. But it's not something my players want. So you know, it's just.
I'm gonna tell you all. Here's the number one drawback I see with everything here. Tell me if I'm wrong. Everyone else out there, I know Josh's gonna say no. When I tear down terrain and set up terrain, it takes me 2 to 4 hours just to get my table set up. I'm hearing from the Fantasy Grounds people, not pre-canned software, but when they're doing their own, and also Tailspire people, Dungeon Alchemist people. Man, it takes a long time for me to set up anything that's going to last a couple hours. It's going to take me almost as long for me to build it all up without using pre-canned things that you can just pop right in currently.
Yep. You see, that's a big negative for me on either the real world physical 3D stuff like you have, Jay, the storage cost, but the setup time. Especially you can't set up on the fly. It's very difficult. It's taken me away from my GMing. I don't like that. I don't even like doing 2D stuff with cardstock unless I can do a huge amount of prep up ahead of time to be able to quickly set up things in front of players. In the virtual sense, let's say I'm Call of Cthulhu. You know I love running Call of Cthulhu. If I just pick on Masks of Nyarlathotep as an example, because that was one I was running recently. If I'm going to be in New York, I need a hotel layout. I need rooms within the hotel. I need a warehouse with a particular look. I need a ship near the warehouse. I need a courtyard with a shop, a particular shop, with stairs going down, yada, 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 yada. And it's funny, really, because it's virtual or real. I need the parts for that. And I need to be able to build it. And I don't care if it's virtual or otherwise. I've now got to build it. And if I don't have the parts, I'm cobbling it together out of all the parts. And why even bother at this point? And to Linda's point, I think it's a lot simpler just to throw it on a TV, this flat. I can do 2D stuff like till the cows come home and feel comfortable with that. But 3D, and even Linda is a 3D person. Like, is Linda going to sit there and build the shop and then the cellar underneath?
Nope.
I mean, it's getting into a lot of effort. And unless you're like the sound Surinscape people who have done a whole set of sounds for the Masks campaign, like I assume someone out there 10 years from now,
I mean, that's what you need.
Someone is going to release the Masks as 3D objects already built, whether it's for Tailspin or whatever, and I'll go, here's the Masks campaign.
Yep.
Then I'll come into it.
On average, when I build a Fantasy Grounds module for Kobold Press, it takes me anywhere from 90 to 150 hours, depending on the complexity of it. Empire of the Ghouls, and let's see, Empire of the Ghouls, the Tales Beneath the Sands was one of their recent ones that took a long time, and then their big one, Scarlet Citadel. I don't even know how many hours I did on that because it was in the middle of a Fantasy Grounds update, so I had to go back and completely reprogram a lot of stuff. So I'm going to guess probably closer to 200 hours on that one by the time I got all the layers in the maps and all the tokens edited, the art edited, because they'll send me a zip file of all the art, and then I have to make sure it's resized and sized to match the grid within Fantasy Grounds. So I'm not even sure if Kobold knows how much work goes into making one of those, but it's an average of 90 to 100 hours is what I quote them lately. And for Toma Beast 3, I'm sure it's going to be in the neighborhood of 95 to 100 hours
Well, that's
because I have to go through and edit all the artwork again. So,
and that's I don't want to be the downer here. That's what the point I was making was that it's to the point now where the 2D Fantasy Ground stuff, you know how long it takes. Imagine how long without the pre-can. Like I know there's a lot of companies that are pre-canning modules and pieces for Tailspire, which is great. I think Demon Goon's one of them. There's a whole bunch of them out there, and I don't. But like, hey, who's going to code Empire of the Ghouls for Tailspire? You know what I'm saying? Someone was going to want to run that in Tailspire. It could be 1,000 hours. You know.
Surprisingly, there's a lot of people that do that just for fun because they love the challenge of building with 3D.
Right.
And I'm one of them.
Yeah. It's just like build the Mastercrafters do for you, so to speak.
Yeah, I haven't
would be the
changed,
same
though.
one doing for digital. Yeah.
True.
Just for sorry to interrupt, guys.
No, go for it. Please.
But just for example, out of my own volition, I talked to Wolfgang 3 years ago, and he said, I mentioned that I do 3D because Anna was saying that I was starting with it, and he goes, "Can you do Raven's Call or the village of Nargenstal from Raven's Call?" And I said, "I'll give it a shot." A year later, I brought him one that looked absolutely horrible, but he was like, "Oh my God, can you do this, for me soon?" And I said, "No, I don't know what I'm doing. I have no clue what I'm doing." But I've recently restarted in Unreal, and I'm building the village again, but I'm using the Unreal technology from scratch and building, using packages that I've downloaded from the Unreal Marketplace that help me build the models. And I'm making it so I'm hopefully going to make it so people can run around in it, download the module, run around in the village in Argenstal. And I don't know if I can do it, but I'm going to try and figure out how to make the inner buildings. I think all I have to do is make the doors into triggers and then make the insides of some of the buildings. Super village, small village, but it is very complex to do because I'm still, again, learning how to use Unreal, which is a bear, but it's a lot of fun to play with. Yeah. So
there's one aspect of the digital that I think we forget when it comes to this, is that if one person does it, he can share it with the world. And that means that we can
not legally.
That depends. That depends. You can, in Tailspire and others, you can put together their modules and put it on there, just like the Dungeon Fog has it. You can make a map in Dungeon Fog, and every other Dungeon Fog user can create it. You can create a map that matches Homlet or Temple of Elemental Evil in Dungeon Fog, and then
sell it.
No. We're not talking selling,
right?
Like I do.
Yeah, but you understand what I'm saying is that
but we're saying fan creation stuff, and then you can share it with all the other users of that tool, and sometimes even other tools, which means that a physical build a Mastercrafter can only make for a few people make cool stuff they'll do for you. A digital version of the build Mastercrafter can do for the whole community, for thousands and for tens of thousands. And that is one of the reasons I think that there will be an enormous amount of cool stuff to play with in not too. The only problem we have is that we need to have stable platforms that are stable over time, so people find that useful, that they should be interesting and fun to work with, and they should be stable over time. So what you produce can actually be used 5 years from now, and hopefully that with some sort of standards and stuff. So that is something that, and we are not anywhere near that yet. We are just in the infancy of this. That's why it will take some time, but it will come. In the 2D market, we're starting to see it now, but in the 3D, it's not.
I'm curious about this, so I really am. I think the software is going to get there, Anna.
Absolutely.
But so I saw someone, and this happens a lot, and I know that both of you experience this too. Someone on Facebook, they need a city for their homebrew game. Nothing I have drawn, and I've drawn hundreds of cities, was what they wanted. They want something for them. And we're just talking about a 2D city, but it's their world. It's their game. They have this picture in their mind. And 3D, I don't care if you're wearing goggles or if you just take a pill and suddenly you're in there. That's not going to address what people see and what they want in their game. And I wonder about that part of it.
That's where a great artist like you and other people that can sketch buildings and things from scratch come into play, because I can't sketch a damn building to save my life. There's no way. I used to be able to 20 years ago, but now I can't. But if I didn't have your template of Watham to go by, it would be all like little Monopoly buildings, square, 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 square.
Just like, yeah.
You know, and if I
Dead
didn't
on.
have you doing that, then
Dead on.
I wouldn't be able to do a lot of that stuff. So again,
Great point.
the artist is still.
But I think that's going to be the market, right? It's going to
Mhm.
be like
Mhm.
in the 3D world. It's going to be people like you, Linda, and
Mhm.
maybe people like me giving you the basic templates. I don't know, but that's going to be a full-time job, just
Oh, yes.
churning out things so
Mhm.
people can build their vision.
Yep.
Because without
Yep.
those props, without those prefabs,
Mhm.
it doesn't mean anything.
Exactly. Exactly. But for me, I can make all the little squares I want on a 3D map, but to actually do the texturing and the architectural details of what the building would look like is where an artist vision comes in. Because I see that and I see one thing, and then the other person will see another totally different layout of it.
Yep.
And I'm like, okay, is it Roman? Is it Greco-Roman? Is it turn of the century? Is it modern? I don't know. Wolfgang totally floored me one time when I asked him what Zobek looked like. And he said this like 70-word long description of it, and it was all different building styles all meshed together. I was like, how do I
Yep.
I don't know how the hell I'm going to scale that, you know?
When did this conversation happen?
It was in a Facebook post. I just asked him one day, you know, what kind of building style would you call Zobek? And he came out with like a 70-word paragraph that had like neoclassical with a little bit of Elvish.
Did he give you my map of Zobek at all?
He did. He
Okay,
he pointed me
I
to
was
that.
wondering about that.
But what coming to the 3D portion of it is where I start questioning it, because your buildings lend it towards a Roman bent. If you really look at the squareness of the buildings and the roundish,
Now you flatter,
they do.
Alyssa. That's awesome.
And they're the neoclassical. But if you look at the descriptions some of them have, he describes it anywhere from medieval to neoclassical to a little bit of Victorian. It's like, that doesn't help. I need to know which building is which, you know? Yep. So that's the problem I run into, is very vague descriptions in a lot of things.
And I think that's the problem that we're going to see first, right? We'll see the software come out where you can have this great game layout, and then people are going to have a vision for the temple that is at the end of the street, and they're not going to have a building they can put on their map.
Exactly. Critical Role and can have 5 people in the staff that makes it for you, so to speak. So yeah,
he uses a lot of Dungeon Forge though, or Dwarven Forge. He uses a lot of that.
Yeah,
so
but
that's rookie stuff.
Yeah, but there are remedies for this.
Kidding.
And yeah, let's go and we have to go back to some of these. But now I think it's so good to tie into
some Dungeon Alchemist.
Yeah. What are the future remedies for this? Because some of the solution to this problem is already in the making, and we are deep into the discussion of AI art when it comes to 2D. Yeah. And wait a second, it's coming to 3D too, and it's coming to a virtual tabletop near you in very, very soon, and it might already be there to some degree. And I wouldn't call it AI, even if they use that in the marketing. I would say procedurally generated. And that's the term I want, if you want to be precisely accurate, because I don't think that Dungeon Alchemist uses pure AI. I think they use procedurally generated. They use various algorithms to create it. So it's probably not what technically you will call artificial intelligence. It's procedurally generated, but that's good enough, so to speak. So it's good enough. And Dungeon Alchemist have been out for like a year now, I think. It was that enormously cool thing that Jay shows some screenshots from, and it basically creates dungeon rooms virtual dungeon rooms in 3D, fully decked out. So you can simply say, I want a smithy, or I want an inn, or I want a temple, or I want the seat for the king, or something, so to speak. You can say the style, I want a prison that looks gritty and whatever, and then a fantasy prison, and it will create something that looks cool. And then if you don't like it, you can just spin another random one. You can tell the size, and it will just populate it with all the cool stuff you see here. So it looks like a video game. But if you don't like that thing, you can go and remove a chair or move something around. And that is a very fast way of getting what you want, so to speak. That was the first genuine example in this field of procedurally generated stuff. And you can do outdoor scenes, and it's starting to get more and more of this cool stuff coming, so to speak. So Dungeon Alchemist was the first genuine good functioning tool that we saw that generate in the 3D, because we've had 2D dungeon generators for a long time, since the Dungeon Master's Guide came out with you have to roll and you can create one. There's various digital version of that for decades.
Here's my Dungeon Alchemist question. I don't know. Sparky said he was messing with it. I know in Tailspire you have characters and you put the miniatures in. Do you have characters and monsters in here representing where they are in the Dungeon Alchemist pictures here, or is it just the rooms by themselves?
It's more like the rooms. They haven't gotten to it's more like you generate it, and then you can actually take a top-down view, or you can export it in various. So it's more like a generator than an actual play.
Got it. Whereas Tailspire, you can actually play in it.
Exactly. Yes.
Okay.
But that is coming on Dungeon Alchemist too.
Okay.
So
it's not there
no
yet.
doubt about it. Exactly. So they started in they refined the dungeon and environment creation, world creation first. Tailspire kind of went the other way around or tried to do both at the same time.
Big difference.
Yeah. To some degree, yeah. So and Battle Map IO has some elements of both, so to speak. So yeah, So it looks a bit more like a little bit more refined and cool, but it's still kind of a limited version, and you can put stuff in. And in that sense, it's faster than Tailspire, but a little bit more limited, I think. But it looks kind of cooler. And it runs in a browser, so it's slightly clunky. But Battle Map IO has a lot of cool potential, and it can do environments, weather, and a whole bunch of really cool stuff. So Battle Map IO.
Weather, huh?
Oh yeah, it can do environments. You can make like spooky more with mist, and you can do a whole bunch of cool stuff with it, and put in really cool miniatures and stuff. So it has a really good potential. In some ways, in that sense, it's better than Tailspire. But Tailspire, you can customize things more, and then there is. Sometimes it's not features that are the coolest thing, or the technical abilities. Some programs are just charming, and sometimes the funniest thing wins over. And when I looked at things here, the RPG engine, it's just brilliant. So,
RPG Stories, is that it?
No, it's the RPG engine.
Oh, RPG
There's
engine.
two. Yeah, there's two of them.
Okay,
This I'm going to put the let's see if I can find the link to it. Hang on a second here. Yeah, there we go. They sell it on Steam, and I must say that it's probably not the best. It's certainly not the most feature rich or whatever, but it's the coolest looking 3D virtual tabletop.
As far as the town, for town, yeah.
For town, underground, whatever.
Oh, really?
You can do almost anything with it. And that way they put together the trailer and stuff, it's fabulous. And I must say that I just fell in love with. I tested it for like an hour. It's amazing fun, and it's cute, and it's charming, and it's one guy that put it together, and it's I just fell in love with it. But I'm not sure that I ever want to use it. But it's one of these tools that you can have your own. You can build your own cute worlds in it, and it has like thousands of little parts you can put together and stuff. And you can it also has procedural generation built in to some degree. So it's a bit like a cute looking Dungeon Alchemist. It's not as polished or beautiful as Dungeon Alchemist, but that's not the point. This is something you put together, something that functions quickly. So it's cuter than Tailspire, and it's quirky and charming, but not the, if you're serious and you want the best thing ever, this is not the one for you. But if you want to have fun and it looks cool and it's charming and it's an adorable tool, and I sometimes I just love tools like that. It's one of my problems
That's
in life.
probably
Yeah.
something I'd struggle with.
Yeah.
I don't like stylized environments.
No,
And
and yeah,
me,
to some,
I'm realistic. I don't want to
Yeah.
be ultra realistic,
mhm,
but I want
Yeah.
it to look like a building that I
Yeah.
want. And
mhm.
I play with virtual Legos is what I call Unreal, because I have literally hundreds of models that I can draw from, and I can
Mhm.
edit any one of those models the way I want. I can
Yeah.
put different textures on them. I
Mhm.
can change the shape of them. I can do whatever.
Yeah.
But I don't like the stylized version. I guess it came from playing with Legos for so many years when I was a kid
Mhm.
that I was frustrated because I couldn't build what I wanted half the time because I couldn't find the piece I wanted.
Yeah.
So, and then when I started working actually in 3D, I just don't like the stylized.
Yeah.
That's my whole point where I was talking in the
And-
very beginning about
Mhm.
how RPGs are getting cartoonish.
Yeah. This
That's
is
my
yeah.
take on it, but it's
Oh,
just
yeah.
not for me, you know.
Exactly. I was going to say this. I see it as one of my weak spots that I kind of like. This,
I mean, this is
stuff like
cool
this.
if you want to have set up a little town, have fun with it,
Yeah.
and just.
Mhm.
But
Yeah,
yeah,
absolutely.
But
You
as
know?
far as putting this in as a Greyhawk City, no.
And it
Yeah.
definitely takes talent to do that
Mhm.
style of stylized buildings.
Yep.
Because you have to have
Yeah.
an artist vision that you can actually visualize that style of building. I
Mhm.
physically cannot do that.
Yeah.
I've tried and tried and tried it. I cannot make a crooked fence post that looks, like 14 squares. I can't do it. It's got to look like a real world fence post if I work
Yeah.
on it.
And I also
So-
have to tell everybody, I'm not going to put my patrons. You're not going to get a whole bunch of these cute little cookie cutter stuff coming from me. No, it's just one of my hobbies. I have hobbies and little side interests at times. So
That's
yeah.
fine.
So but now we need to talk about something that Sparky68 mentioned, because this is the big one, I think. This is I'm going to post the link to it. It's from a French company called NOG Studios, and it's called Menir. It's kickstarting right now.
Wow.
And I have no economic interest in this, and I haven't pledged to the Kickstarter. So I'm not saying this, because I'm going to praise this in a lot of ways. And I'm just going to say outright, I'm not earning a penny from saying this in any way, shape, or form. I never talked to them. They haven't sponsored me or anything. But this is a beast, a very interesting beast of a tool set. It's like World Machine and Dungeon Alchemist all wrapped up in one. It is a game engine based tool that has procedural generation taken to the next level. You can generate on the fly whole worlds with tens of square miles. We're talking maybe 100. They're saying 60 plus. From the looks of it, is probably even more than that. Or whole big dungeons. We're talking hundreds of rooms with one mouse click. And then you can go in and tweak them and change them as order. If they can get a little bit more specific, like in Dungeon Alchemist, that you can say, oh, I want a prison or an evil cult temple or something like that, and make it look like that. Damn. And the terrain in this tool looks as good as I could ever hope to get mine terrain.
This looks like Diablo in 3D.
Exactly. It looks like a triple-A video game. And there is a reason for it. The NOG Studio is a studio that made stuff for AAA video games. That was their business idea. And then they played D&D. So that was like, what the heck? We need to make a tool to make D&D. That's their backstory from it.
I've never heard of them until tonight. So
my big question is, how big of a machine are you going to need to run these things?
This you need a gaming rig. So this is not a tool for today. Even if they might say this is the tool that I think will be on everybody's machine in 5 years, maybe. Yeah,
I've loaded one of your height maps. Just a small, tiny little section, like 16 miles of Greyhawk game engine.
Yeah.
And my computer slowed to a crawl.
Oh, yeah.
Like 32 minutes for it to generate this height map.
Yeah.
And I'm running a Ryzen 7. I mean, there should be no way anybody can do that kind of thing with a gaming computer today.
No. This is a tool for the future, definitely. But to me, what is interesting, it's not so much the technical details. To me, is the scope. This is not a tabletop simulator. This is a world simulator. And here you have one picture. That is a good one. You can actually go in and see what the characters see, not only in a dungeon. You can basically go out and see, okay, I'm standing here in the forest. What do I see? And you can literally look for the enemy, so to speak. And that's the lure of it. It's like, wow, it's like the world. And then when I saw this like a week ago or 10 days ago when it came out, I was like, oh, I need it right now. I'm going to bet the house, take a second mortgage and put money into it or something. But then it struck me, do I really want this? Is this really for gaming? Because there is a bunch of things that I've noticed both with myself and other players, is that once you start putting something that looks this photoreal, people want to run around in it like they do they want to play Skyrim or something. They don't want to play tabletop role-playing game where you put your mini down and then you have a conversation in 20 minutes what you're going to do in the next 6 seconds, and then you move your token like 10 feet, and then you have another half an hour where you discuss your turns. You want to run around and look at things. And so that's when I'm now seeing that this is a possibility. I'm getting second thoughts. Do I really want this for my games? And I'm not 100% sure that my game sessions would be vastly improved having this tool. And to be honest, this has been a kind of a game changer in my thinking, so to speak. So I need to start. Yeah, I need to start rethinking my future goals of my and making the maps and stuff, and started streaming my games for Virtual Greyhawk combined with this have got me to think, where do I want my games to be in 5 years or 10 years? And I've really seriously started to question, or at least I want to challenge my beliefs, so to speak. And I think that's important if you want to be both a content creator, do this for a living, and try to be as good of a DM I can be. Then it's important to challenge my assumptions, so to speak. And I'm not 100% sure. I love this, and I adore it, and I think it's awesome, and I want it. But I'm not really sure that it's the thing I need or should have, to be honest. So what's your guys' reaction to this?
I have to agree. I like the theater of the mind. It makes your character or your players much more active in the game than having everything spelled out in front of them. Because I've done regular D&D now for almost 2 years in my current campaign. And if I have everything spelled out in front of them, like on a battle map, they're like, oh, I just walk over there and look at that. What is that? No, you're not supposed to even see that. You know, that was a little faux pas on my part. I didn't cover that up, you know, but then they zero in on that part. I don't want that for my players. I want them to be able to think in their own brain, what does this world look like? But yet I also want to do this because I love 3D. So I'm torn on what I want to do.
Yeah.
But I don't think I'm ever going to get to the point of using something like Dungeon Alchemist in my live games because of the fact that it's not to the vision I want. Like Alyssa and everybody has been saying, it's not going to match the vision you have in your head of what this building is going to look like. And that's one reason I'm working on 3D now, is because I'm trying to visualize from written word what these buildings look like. I'm not trying to make it a stylized my own version or whatever. When it's very, very vague, I do make my own version. Like when Wolfgang was so vague in Zobek. I'll take one building and I'll look for anything that referring to that building in the actual text that are printed. But then when I start modeling it, if I can't find a description of a certain piece of it, it's fair game for me to do what I want with it. Granted, a lot of people aren't going to like it, but that's how I envision it and how I see it fitting with the rest of the building when I make the rest of the building in 3D. You know, like there's parts of the temple that that Jay just showed probably are not canon. But there is such a vague description in a lot of places on that temple that I had to be artistic license on a lot of it because I had nothing to go by.
You have to. So I don't think with this or like with my table, I can never have 100% of everything on a. It's not realistic. Every little dressing, every little detail. But it's you got for me, you pick and choose what's important for the storyline, the gameplay, the positioning, and that's what gets on the table. I think combination of 2D pictures, 3D renderings, STLs, all that combined further enhances the story. I think that's my vision for what I'd like. But I know no one's ever like, you get to that point, you're like, when's the technology good enough where you're like, this is what I want? Is that gonna is that 5 years, 10 years down the road?
And for some people, technology was good enough with pencil, paper, and dice back. Many they love to play that way, and it's still a perfectly valid way of enjoying D&D.
And that's one reason I like Cthulhu, because of the fact that there's very few props, unless you go overboard. Well, Alyssa, I don't know. I've never played in your game, so I don't know how many props you use. But my DM or my game master at the time had very few props, and he forced us to work together in the theater of their mind, because he gave us very few details, very few descriptions of what was happening. We had to figure out what was going on, and that's one reason I like Cthulhu so much, is because it depends on role playing. I mean, D&D does to a certain extent, but the more we get detail stuff drawn out and built and all this stuff, that takes away from the theater of the mind that so many people love about role-playing games.
And
you're right, Linda. You're 100% right, and I think that's the key. I looked at the Kickstarter. I've been looking at it very, very closely, and I think I've had a little bit of a revelation as we've been talking. There's a line, right? And a pen and paper work so well because it was theater of the mind. If you sketch out the dungeon by hand, it's just rough shapes. It's theater of the mind. As the GM describes the room, every single player has a different interpretation in their head. And that, I think, is one of the wonderful things about tabletop role-playing, right? It's like you visualize what you visualize. It could be an NPC. It could be a building that's described to you. It could be some scenery that's described to you. You, as a player, visualize it. The more you start to move away from that, whether it be glorious 3D terrain, sorry, Jay, but terrain that maybe you don't have to fill that spot, certainly as you get into the likes of that Kickstarter, Anna, it's like you've now taken that away. It's almost you've taken the agency away from the players. No, stop thinking about it. Stop using your imagination. Look at the picture. And Linda, like you were saying, that where they're homing in on certain details in the picture, because it's not about your description anymore. It's about what you're showing them.
I actually had somebody do that in a recent game. I didn't have time to edit the drawn out map that I was using. So I said, that corner does not exist. And they're like, oh, but what's in that corner? I just said it doesn't exist. It isn't even part of it. And that's all they went to. They crawled across the room on their hands and knees because it was a really low ceiling. And they isolated that whole thing. Didn't matter what else I described. They went right for that corner. And then I turned around on the tables and I said, okay, since you're totally ignoring what I just told you, you get a trip. I'm sorry. It's not something that you got to listen to your DM, number one, but again, it's the theater of the mind that is making what D&D what it is.
And it makes Cthulhu what it is. Right? Like, exactly. Call of Cthulhu, I think, relies a lot on theater of the mind. Like, I actually have a huge amount of Call of Cthulhu, I want to say 3D props, miniatures. I never put them on the table. Like, literally, I've actually a whole bunch painted. They have never seen the light of day. Why? Because it detracts from where I want the players' heads to be. And I think for the games that, let's say, Jay runs, that it works very well, because here's a town, or here's the layout. As players, you come in here and we're doing a battle map scenario across or through this area. Works well. But the minute that you need a little bit of theater of the mind or a little bit of a description, and you want players to visualize the skull carved into a cliff face or whatever, like these VTT things fall down. They can't do that.
They can't.
And I'll just say one thing that ties into this, because I think you're into something real here. And in 10 years, when I moved to California and I started the game group here, that's when the first time I really had my Flanese map up and running, so to speak. And I made my campaign version. I hardly ever showed that map to the players. They hardly ever saw it. So all of my map making was for my visualization, for my inspiration, not for my players. What I did for the players was I had my tactiles and I used dry erase markers and drew. That was the only prop. We used like tokens or miniatures, and players had miniatures, or we just used dice or little buttons or little pieces of cardboard, but that I just scribbled something on, and that was it. And I drew very simple things with my dry erase markers. That was it. And that's been the way I gamed most of the time. And now when I'm using Albert Rodeo, I want to use a slightly snazzed up version of that function, so to speak. So I don't think I will use, despite the fact I love Miniature, I don't think I will ever use it.
You know one thing I'm getting out of this, just watching their videos and everything? It's a little bit like what Jay was talking about, when like the hours of prep time ahead of time, just to get like the terrain set up. If you look through their videos, they're customizing lights, they're customizing rooms, they're moving props around, and that's cool. That's cool, but that's getting into a completely different type of GMing.
It is.
I don't want to do that. I want to create a scroll and pour coffee over it and age it and then dry it with my hairdryer and shit like that. I don't want to be moving game props around in a room. It reminds me of like Neverwinter Nights, the very first one, because I used to mod for that. I used to write like scenarios.
There was fun times in the late 90s.
Oh, that was such a good time.
Oh, that was so fun.
I played that so much with friends. I built the village of Hamlet. I actually said it in the chat earlier. I built the village of Hamlet in Neverwinter Nights, and it was great. It was fine. But I'll tell you what, one of the things that Neverwinter Nights sort of sold you on was the fact that you could GM as the players were going through it. And it's like, oh, no, you can't. Not without 500 hours of prep time.
Yeah, absolutely. Scripting, all that,
Right, that's what this reminds me of, this Kickstarter. It's like, you can procedurally generate, basically roll the dice, random world, looks glorious. You get what it gives you. If it doesn't meet what your vision is, like, well, get in there and start bloody moving shit around. And I don't want to do that as a GM.
And there's some people that can't successfully do theater of the mind. You know, there's a lot of people that don't have the imagination that absolutely love to play D&D. But that's where my vision comes in, is where I want to see, you know, I want to help those people envision what the rooms and look like, and what the, you know, because for me, looking at a battle map, it's very hard to tell what an actual building looks like unless you get a very detailed description about it. Like example, there's a citadel inside of Scarlet Citadel that from Kobold Press, that it gives a really good description of it, but for me, it leaves so many things to vagueness that it's very hard for me to visualize what is going to be in the way, what's not going to be in the way. That's my vision, is to just show these people that don't have the really vivid imaginations what these buildings might look like. And I don't want to make them that they're going to become canon. They're going to become what I see from the descriptions and from the models.
For me, part of it too, like, I'm just going to pick on Necropolis, right? Which I recently did for Fog God. Necropolis, most of the rooms are pretty specific in their description. Like, there's one that has a big, huge compass type of thing, drawn into the floor. It describes this big, huge compass. You're not doing that in VTT. That does not exist. There is a statue in the corner of like whatever dude, and he's holding a book. You're not getting that in VTT either, unless someone happens to decide that they are going to model this whole goddamn thing of Necropolis as a hobby and give it to you. You know, it's that's what gets me. So now you have to go super generic. Now that gets back to Anna's point of the pen and paper. because that's what you're back to. It just happens to be
Well,
virtual.
yeah,
Mhm.
and since I'm running strict sandbox, that means that I need to be on the fly, be ready to run in every direction. So and that is probably why I've focused on the large picture, because I need to, for my own, it's not for the players primarily, it's for me. I need to know what the landscape look like, so I can tell the stories. I can figure out how long it will take for the orcs to go around that way and make an ambush. Would that be possible for them, and stuff like that. It
Mhm.
helps me tell the story, so to speak. And then I'm kind of want to brag about my maps. I want people to see them and stuff like that and use them. But when it comes to a tool, is primarily a tool for me. And now, thanks to Alberodio and even Defenders Grounds, I'm starting to experiment my way down to encounter maps, and I'm starting to find the style I'm comfortable with, so to speak, with mine. And so I want to have a lot of detail on the world scale, but when it comes to room detail and stuff, I don't want to have that much, because I want to be able to spin up whatever needed at the moment. And if they come back to the room a day later or an hour later and the enemy have poured things around, I can't redraw the map that fast. That's why I would not put so many details in. So I'm more for photoreal on the world scale, and theater of the mind in when it comes to the close-up stuff, so to speak, which is probably weird from a lot of others who are the opposite. They just generically talk about the world and detail the maps for the room very detailed. I'm the opposite.
Every
And-
DM's different, which is
Yeah,
great.
absolutely. But one of the reasons, like, I love Critical Role, and the reason I love it is because Matt is so descriptive. His world actually comes to life when you listen to what he's saying.
Yeah,
And if you actually close your eyes and listen to what he's saying, and if you have a vivid imagination, you can visualize that entire freaking world when he's describing it.
that's awesome.
Now,
Yeah.
when I'm reading books, I hate 15 to 20 pages of room description. And there's a lot of authors out there that do that, that they'll go, oh, there's a caliber laying on this table that might be used by this person. I don't care. I'm reading it for just entertainment. I don't care what's laying on the table. But in the D&D world, and even in 3D, the more detail someone can give me about a room, the more detail I can put into it. But again, there's that trade-off of time required to model and set the lighting. And, just a couple days ago, I was building what was it? A procedural? No, it wasn't even procedural. A special name for it, that is a landscape material that I can use on landscapes that are your size, Anna. When you're talking 16 mile squares or bigger at a time. There's one that will do all of the terrain painting at one time based on how high and how steep the hills are. And it took me 9 to 10 hours to figure out how this guy was doing it and what each part did. And then it took me another 9 hours to actually make the dumb thing. I was like, what am I gaining from this? In the long run, absolutely I'm gaining a lot, because I can just plunk this on the height map and go to town. But the time it takes to figure out these things and model them and make them is very detrimental when you're talking 3D virtual tabletops, in my opinion.
Or
because of that time, like Jay was saying, it takes him 4 to 5 hours just to set up for a game.
Or it takes my buddy Bill months to do something like this, when we say, what do we need? We need an arena. Okay, so
Exactly.
So
exactly.
we get an arena, but this did not come together overnight. Now we have it, we have the detail on it, and
and that's beautiful. I absolutely love those kind of maps. But for me, it would take me probably a year or more to do something like that, because I'm not skilled yet.
And that is, and that's with the wonders of 3D printing and the wonders of having a great friend who can really crank out the detail on these things. And from that point, we can get something like that. Now we have it from this point on, but
now that's detailed, but it's not detailed to the point where you lose all your imagination.
Absolutely.
And you're like, okay, if I'm sitting in the stands, I see all this happening around me. What does that brickwork look like? Who built the brickwork? That kind of thing. So many people forget what it's like to have an imagination, because we get so many things shoved at us virtually and visually lately.
But Jay, you also, sorry.
No, go ahead, Anna.
I was clearing my throat.
I was
Sorry.
going to say, Jay, it also suits your style. That's
Yeah.
what I'm going to ask you. Have you kind of wrapped your style around the game table and the miniatures, or were the miniatures a thing that suited the style? Which came first, do you think? Your love of crafting miniatures and using that?
In the 80s, we didn't
Mhm.
have all this. We had a box of lead miniatures that weren't painted, and they represented all the monsters. We had some painted miniatures, and you had your big map with your dry erase markers, and that's how you did. And then as technology got better and better, and then Miniature Building Authority came around, Reaper Miniatures really cranked out stuff. Ralph Partha, more and more of that came, and then this jumped only about 3 years ago when 3D printing really took off. This is when this really just went crazy, where we now ask, like I asked Jeremy from Gamescape, like, Jeremy, there's no tilt wall out there. I need a jousting field. What can you do? Oh, I can do that. And he creates an entire setup and then, puts it on his Patreon. But now we have a jousting field because, someone created it for us, so just another thing that, but this is time. This is a lot of time, and then once you have it, you have it. So just wanted to.
My only problem with it would be in my sandbox style. They want to go to another city, and then the arena needs to look different.
Yeah, you can't be that. I understand that, but I can't.
Exactly.
Oh
that's the thing. That's why I will.
Yeah, that's not happening.
But the nice thing is, if your players haven't been to that other city, what do they know? They don't know if the Coliseum is different.
No, exactly.
Oh my gosh.
So
that's not happening.
Yeah.
Bill, I need you to paint up a whole other one here. Right
exactly.
now.
You need a new one now. So,
yeah, he killed me.
That's an advantage of having virtual stuff. You can, especially in Unreal, all I have to do is click and drag a new material on, and I have a totally different looking model. And I can put things into building the material that allow me to change the tint, the size, the print, and everything. It's just amazing what you can do within the 3D realm. Now, that cannot be exported into models because there's no way to color print models that is reliable yet. And it's very, very expensive to do it. Anna and I were having this discussion just the other night, how expensive it is to 3D print in full color. And
because that's something I would love to do, print my world maps in 3D with full color, but it's too expensive yet. But it's coming. It's coming.
I mean, resin printers, the plastic printers, PLA printers, man, that would be that's rough.
And also because I've seen the ones that can.
Yeah, you're out of the job, Dr. Faust. That's don't worry.
With full color, so to speak, and they print using a sort of sand. Mineral powder, and then they have a little nozzle that is like an inkjet that sprays color on top of it, according to the and they look superb, but for museum models. And
I know zero crafters in the industry on Twitch or whatever that have that.
No, exactly. Maybe we're talking $1 million or something like that. I saw it at SIGGRAPH, and the results are amazing. It's just fantastic, but it's out of the reach for. I think in a few years you will probably be an online service. You will send the STL or the model, and they will print it, and you will get it back.
It's very possible. That's how a lot of 3D printing started with printable scenery and stuff
exactly.
too.
Yeah. So that might come soon because it's something that's coming. But then it might be interesting if people want to have a 3D terrain stuff. I would probably not. Might have one or two just for fun, but it's not something I would use. But here's an example of
and let's tie this into what Alyssa's doing and what you're doing, and how this is gonna how all three of you are going to utilize this.
So this I realized, I want to take my old kind of tactile dry erase markers and take a quick. So what I did was that I take my world map, I blow it up 200%, and then it becomes 20 pixels per 5 feet. So that's what I'm doing.
It's in the Showlands.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. It's the shield line. This is Syrian Keep. That will be the target for the game at Virtual Greyhawk. So and there's some I've put in a couple of a couple of inside versions too, and there's 3 screenshots of it, so you can see what the style that I have experimented with, and I think I will settle on this style. So that this is the inside what the map look like. There will be a little bit more furniture and stuff, but not much. It will be very bare bones, not commercially viable dungeon maps, so to speak, but they're quick and dirty, and they are basically just a way to, so you don't have to have the discussion, how many feet away is that, can I see around the corner, and those kind of basic. It will answer these basic things, and you will get like a basic idea of the layout, but not fancy photoreal. But the good thing with this is that I can crank out these on every town they will come to. I can, if they go into an inn, I can draw that in 20 minutes, and so it's just slightly more work than it is to. I can't do it real time during the game session, but
Right.
not far from it. So
There's got to be this. So my question to you, Aaron, is: are you embedding this into a VTT, or are you
yes,
just,
I use
okay.
it in Albert Rodeo. So
Okay.
these will be used that they are designed to be used in Albert Rodeo.
Okay.
And once I have the map done, this map, this is the first real big one, and it has what is it, like 10 levels from top to bottom. So that's
I really like that.
But each level have taken me about an hour to do. So I can do an inn or a couple of buildings in a village in half an hour. So that's the good thing. It's quick and dirty, and it looks okay. It's good enough for my games, and I can crank out localized versions, meaning the version of the actual building and the dungeons around it and stuff like. And it will also match the world map, so I will know where it is, and I can catalog it, and I can. This is also meant to be integrated into GIS in the future. So it's one tie into the other, but they can be produced quickly and for each game, so to speak. So yeah.
And number one, Alyssa can use this as a guide to do up a commercial map of the area.
Oh yeah, I will. Yeah,
easily.
I can provide it. Yeah, but on the other hand, Alyssa is damn good at city design. So
well, I'm just saying, I'm just using this as an example that you had. You know, building style or whatever, and then you know, and then Linda would be able to take this and maybe do render it out in 3D.
Yep. I would have to have a height map to do the terrain.
Right.
Just because Anna's a perfectionist where Greyhawk's
concerned.
Okay. And then I would just do simple Monopoly style houses, very little detail, and all my textures would be just painted on the sides of the buildings, because that's the style Anna would like in her world because of the scale she's working at. The scale she's working at is what, 10 pixels per foot or 5 feet or something like that?
I have the overall world map is 1 pixel per 5 feet. And then I have for outdoor, meaning you go about town, so to speak. So you want to cover a whole settlement. Then I use 10 pixels per 5 feet. That's not enough for indoor use, and you can't see furniture stuff, but it's perfect if you want to know where buildings are, trees are. So outdoor scenes, you want to have a fight in the village along the street fights and stuff like that. You want to storm a castle. Then I think that scale is perfect, because you can cover a whole battlefield, but you can still see a little bit of detail. You can see buildings, you can see trees and stuff like that, things that will be affect an outside battle. And then indoor scenes, I double that, so 20 pixels per 5 feet. That's big enough so you can get chairs and stuff. And there's, go to the second screenshot and zoom in, and that's this one, and zoom in. This one is 20 pixels per 5 feet. Oh yeah, that and the third one, that is there's some interesting features on that one too that will be part of the game. But that one, it shows one of the top levels that is not fully done yet, but I just took a screenshot of what I'm working on. I'm 80-90% done now, so
it's cool
with it. So yeah, so it's kind of built stuff. So that is the style I'm working on that works for my use, so to speak. It's quick and dirty, looks kind of inspiring, but not detailed. That's what I want it to be.
And for my side of it, it would look much like the Castle Orzelberg picture that I gave Jay. It would be very, very simply modeled, very simple modeled. And then if I had any detail like windows and things like that, I would just paint them on. Yep, on Castle Orzelberg. That's not finished, but when I get it finished, it will be, every model will have painted on terrains. It won't have textures that I could interchange. because to do textures on something like that, you could do what's called a UV layout. Basically, what you're doing is taking and marking the model so it will lay flat, like you sliced it up in pieces and laid it flat on a sheet of paper. Then I would take that layout and I would draw all in Photoshop all the details that I wanted on that building. Like if I wanted awnings or whatever, I would probably hire somebody to do that because I can't draw worth a damn, but it's just the detail would be permanently affixed to that model because it would be what's called baked into the model. You wouldn't be able to change it in Unreal. But that's the level of detail that would be at. And again, I want to work in much higher detail because that's where I love to do my level of detail, because I've always loved looking at architecture. I've loved looking at like when I was a senior in high school, we went to the Washington Cathedral in Washington, D.C., and I was in total awe. If I could learn to scale or model to that standard so it actually looked like the Washington Cathedral, I would consider myself an expert at that point. But I can't do that because I don't know how to do a lot of the functions yet. And there's procedural modeling that can do a lot of that. But I find the most fun in manually modeling everything. There's ways within Blender to do procedural modeling where you can make castle walls within seconds by just using the procedural codes and diagrams and things like that I've just totally ignored because I love the fact of manually modeling all my buildings. So hopefully that wasn't too far off the tangent.
No, absolutely. And like I said, we get to a point here, this could be easily input into an STL for print, for 3D print purposes, which is great.
Yep. And like I said, again, it's not finished because I was struggling with the roof on top of the main keep. The way they had it drawn on the battle map did not work with the actual architecture once you build the model in 3D. So I have to figure out how to change that so it still flows with the style that they were intending. So that's one I just kind of put aside because I was getting frustrated with it. So I'm taking a break from that one and going to something else for a while.
I can imagine it's a work in progress getting that all.
Yep.
Getting that
because
all
you can
taken
draw
care of.
anything. Well, you can draw anything you want in Photoshop, whatever. But when you actually start doing 3D, some of those concepts just do not work in 3D. And matter of fact, I've run into a couple problems on some of Alyssa's buildings where I'm like, how am I going to do that in 3D to make it look like a real building? But I usually figure it out because you have enough clues usually for me to figure out how to do it. Or I'll put columns to replace some of the questionable areas or something, you know.
I draw squiggly lines directly from above, as you can see behind me.
Yes,
I don't worry about architecture.
Exactly. And that's where I struggle sometimes.
There is no structural integrity in my world.
Yep. But that's the most fun though, is when you get a very generic shape like that and you have to figure out how it's going to look in 3D, which is one of my challenges, is why I like to use your maps, especially because you have the interesting shapes for all the buildings. You don't have the plain Jane squares or octagons or.
Yeah. I'm not a fan of that. There was actually
Me neither. Absolutely not.
There was a professionally released module. You know what? From Paizo. I'm just going to call them out. Some years ago, it was one of their adventure paths, and it had a city inside. And it was as generic as you could get. A whole bunch of just rectangles sprinkled like salt on the page, and it had no soul. Don't tell me the city name. It doesn't matter. This is garbage. Why even include it in the book at this point? It means nothing to me. Just you know what? Just give me a black and white, put little points of interest numbers across it, and that means just as much. I am the opposite of that. I want you to see crates and stairs and flower pots. I want you to look at a building like this one over here, like right there, and have it suggested to you. I think that's a temple or a government building of some description.
I could very easily model that because I would start with the square first, and then the roof line is drawn out for me. So all I have to do is make my cuts exactly where those lines are, and then extrude it is what it's called doing when you make a flat object into a 3D, and I would be done. I could have that building within 10 minutes by the time I lay out the roof line.
So I want you to look at my 2D maps and picture the buildings.
Hmm.
So the fact that you could do that in the 3D world, I think means everything to me, you know. And there's several all around me like that. It's like you can picture it. You can picture yourself in the street walking down there, and you can visualize. That's what I try to bring into my maps.
Yep. Back a while ago, you were talking about an old map you had done on Facebook where it had like overarching bridges in part of the world. There was a layer here, and then there was another layer that had bridges. That one, I asked you one day, I said, I want to build that in 3D. Never got back to it, but that is still something I want to tackle.
And actually, so that one, I am down with doing that. So that was from my own personal campaign, and it was a city built between two cliffs. And I was like, if they did this, then they would just go up with bridges. And I built the ground floor, and I started working on the next floor. And I need to get back to it, to be honest with you, and maybe we will. Because I started to picture all sorts of different ways that it could be rendered. And having it 3D, looking at it 3D, and seeing the depth of the shadow and the overarching bridges from above, you know, yes, I am all about doing that. Yeah. Let's make that happen.
That would be a definite challenge to get the landscape to look right. When you go up in arcs like that, it's very hard to get the right look to the ground around it. Because again, you need structural integrity. The whole thing is going to collapse on you. So building the arched landscape and then having the supports drawn properly within the actual landscape would be a very big challenge for me. But that's something we'll talk about some other time. But that's the kind of thing I love, because it's just one of those things where I can picture what this looks like in my mind, but there's nothing out there that tells me what it actually looks like in written form. So it's like, okay, I have a Victorian room. Okay, I can picture a Victorian room all day long, but what this person is describing is not a Victorian room, the way they describe the furniture, because they'll describe like Queen Anne style furniture or something weird, and it does not fit a Victorian description. So that's the kind of thing that bugs me. But you know, again, I'm one of those people who has a very, very vivid imagination.
Right.
You know,
it's
and
kind
it's
of common among us role players, I think.
it is very, very common.
Yeah.
Yes. Yep. And that's why I love D&D and I love Cthulhu and I love all the different games, because I have to use my imagination in a lot of regards.
Yeah.
So again, sorry, tangent.
No, tangents are great on the show.
That's what
we
the
do
show's
a lot.
all about.
The show's about talking and just enjoying the conversation.
I was thinking there was one topic that we've talked a little bit about. I think we need to at least, I'm so curious to hear you guys and also people in chat, what they think. One D&D, and I'm not talking about the rule set here. We're talking about the 3D virtual tabletop that is going to be an integrated part of the new release. Yeah. The one D&D, the virtual tabletop. And it's interesting because when we talked about these tabletop, it fits roughly where I think Tailspire, BattleMap.io, and a couple of others. One other that we haven't talked about and mentioned that is called RPG Stories. I'm going to put a link that is also kickstarting at the moment as well. It looks to be in that realm, so to speak, that it's basically a tabletop simulator, but with a lot more. It doesn't simulate the tabletop exactly, but it's more like it's a neat little arena to play, like a D&D skirmish game, so to speak. A few rooms, a dungeon, no world simulation. It's not linear. It doesn't look like it, so to speak. It looks much more like a Tailspire or BattleMap.io or something like that. Yeah. That was something more in that style, so to speak, but more polished, more man hours behind it, so to speak. Maybe. To
be honest, I haven't even looked at it at all.
No, I'm just curious because it will be the big thing, whether we like it or not. It will be the big thing.
There's thousands and thousands of people who like D&D Beyond, probably millions. I don't like it.
Yeah.
Because number one, you have to continuously buy books to keep using it.
Yeah.
If they make it so it's one big program that you can buy and then get the cost of these modules down to like $10, whatever, fine.
Yeah.
But if I have to buy a hardcover book for $40, then I have to buy the VTT version for another $40, and I have to buy the other thing.
Yep.
And if it might be worth it. But for right now, I'm interested to see where it goes. But that's the stop of my interest.
Yeah.
because I can create that today in Unreal Engine if I really wanted to.
Yeah.
And
But
I'm sorry, I'm really, I want to like it so much that I'm almost staying away from it so I don't get disappointed.
Yeah. And,
you know,
and that's I think you touched a really good point, because I don't think this will success or fail is not down to the features or the specs
Nope.
or the technology. It's the business model that I
Yep.
think will be the key on this one. If they laid in this with microtransaction, loot boxes, and a whole bunch of other stuff to squeeze as much money out of it as possible, I think it might attract a whole bunch of casual gamers who've never looked at D&D before, and that might be the whole point of this.
And if I want to be surrounded by microtransactions and everything, I'll go play Neverwinter. That's free.
That's probably
know?
what they want to compete with. They want people to play Candy Crush Saga or whatever it's called on
Neverwinter is
Android.
put out by Dungeons and Dragons, so Neverwinter on Steam right now is free to play, but there's tons of microtransactions, so you get the good loot.
Yeah,
that irritates the snot out of me. Pardon for the language, but I hate microtransactions. Absolutely hate them.
Yeah,
I love Linda. I love Linda and the fact that snot is a swear word.
That's the way I was raised. We didn't
Oh.
beat around the bush talking to people.
It's okay.
Yeah.
I am your yin
know?
to yang. I am the balance. Don't worry.
Yeah, but my guess is that this tool is not aimed to woo us seasoned players who play D&D for decades. It's not.
If
This
it's
is
something,
sorry, go
go ahead. I'm sorry. I interrupt.
no.
Constantly. It's your
Oh
turn.
yeah, me too. So we are equally bad at this. So it's good. But what I'm thinking is that this is a tool for new beginners who pick up the books, go somewhere, never played D&D before, to get quickly in to play something fun, move their miniatures around, pay a few bucks extra, and do it. And then when they get hooked, there's always the next DLC with the next little plugin module and so on and so forth. So for some players new who wants to learn the game and so on, it might be the perfect thing. But for me, as played for decades, to want to play in my own version of Greyhawk and stuff, no, I don't think this will be my tool at all.
Well, coming from a person who has access to all the books before they're released, a lot of times because I work at the game shop and I also work for Kobold, the industry has gotten, in my opinion, stale. There's so many things out there now that have just flooded the market that people don't know which way to turn, so they go to homebrewing a lot. And it's like, and I'm probably speaking something that I shouldn't say here, but the last 10 or 12 books from Wizards have not impressed me, not one iota. They're good for stat blocks, that type of thing, but the actual content within the books, other than the stat blocks, don't interest me a bit. I'm an absolutely huge, monstrous fan of dragons. So when Fizzbonds came out, I was like, oh my god, I gotta get this book. I opened it and went, I could have got that in the Draconomicon. Why did I just waste 40 bucks?
Exactly.
You know?
Third edition Dragonomicon and second edition were better, in my opinion.
True.
Than the
It
latest
updated it to 5e.
Oh yeah,
not that hard to
but
do.
it comes to all the other, exactly. But beyond the stat blocks, the old content was in some ways better than the new. Yeah,
I love 3.5 just for the content alone. The rule set, it was okay. Pathfinder's not my thing because I don't like to do a lot of math when I'm playing the game. But it's just one of those things that when your content doesn't hold the reader, or if I have to, like, I'm going to say one specific module that I will never play again that I played once. Curse of Strahd. Curse of Strahd, you're constantly flipping from page to page to page to page in that book to run the module. That should not happen.
Yeah.
It should have everything you need in a written format. Like, you're in this village. Everything for this village should be included in here. All the background, all the history of the people, everything should be in that spot. That's my opinion. Again, anybody can do whatever they want with it, but I will never ever run Curse of Strahd as written again because I'm an old school Ravenlofter. I absolutely love second edition Ravenloft. There's so much more life to it than there is in fifth edition. So anybody that comes into the store and says, "Hey, I want to run a Ravenloft campaign," I said, totally ignore Curse of Strahd. Go back to second edition D&D. Read all the lore for Ravenloft and then start making your D&D campaign to happen in Ravenloft, because there is so much lore that they did not include in Curse of Strahd or is rewritten to, number one, politically correct, which it needed to be done. But again, they changed the lore of the what am I trying to say? The make-believe characters. They changed the lore of the races and the history of Barovia so drastically
Yeah, Vishanti
that I
and all.
do
Yeah, I got it.
not like it.
So,
So
who's the Anna?
Yeah.
I'm not bashing. I'm not the one bashing 5e right now. What's going on?
I'm
No,
I'm
no,
not
and-
bashing
and-
5e at all. It's my only one I play.
Mhm.
But
And-
the
and
thing
it- yeah.
is, I find it very lacking. So
Yeah.
I'm like Anna. I
But-
like to homebrew it myself.
Yeah,
Cool.
but it's to
So-
me I agree, and I think it ties into the discussion we had with 3D virtual tabletop and stuff. Is that there is a new dimension that I think coming in stronger that hasn't been that much in D&D or tabletop role playing games, because they have been something that has been published out of passion. Whether you've been almost every publisher, they've done products out of passion, not profit firsthand. So profit has been a need in order to, they needed the money in order to produce the next stuff, so to speak. But now we're starting to get business models starting to affect the gaming community in I think a larger degree than it has before, because up until very recently, all game publishers published books. And it was more like, should I include it in a lot of small books, or should I make big volumes with it, or how did I slice it? But that was kind of on the margin, so to speak. But nowadays you're starting to have very curated business model decisions on stuff, especially when you tie it in with the digital and stuff. And that is something that we see, and I see it in virtual tabletops, or a lot of these virtual tabletops are becoming shopping windows where I'm supposed to buy each little module, each little plugin, each little whatever, and they become modularized, or subscription based and stuff like that. And in some degree, I like subscription, because that means that I have a product in the future. But I want the subscription to be, if I pay him, I get everything, so to speak, and I don't need to worry about it. So the business model starting to affect my decision, meaning I liked 5e. 5e first, I didn't like it, but I realized 5e is the rule system I needed. So I converted and say, okay, I'm going to run it 5e. What I didn't and I took that decision when Ian World came out with Level Up Advanced 5e, because they had the business model that suited me. I can get all the books, I can get all the PDFs, and I can get all the rules in a neat packaged format. Problem solved. But 5e, so a rule system, I chose another publisher, not because of the rules content, but because of the business model. And when it comes to the mapping products and stuff and VTTs, I think that will be the big, meaning we have seen a whole slew of 3D VTTs and 2D VTTs. They're all technically very similar. They're all great, or in one, they can all do the job, but which one suits you is probably up to the business model they choose more than the features.
They're not even there yet, though.
They're not, but they're getting there, so to speak.
They're
so
not
the
there.
2D,
Well, yeah, but they're not there, and it's going to be. I think it's going to be a race between them and Tailspire and all these other and Dungeon Alchemists and stuff for a market. That's what I think.
Definitely, yeah, definitely,
yeah.
Yeah,
and we're starting to see that in the 2D VTTs. We're starting to see some of them losing, like what was it, the Astral tabletop stopped developing, or which one there was, and stuff. So it will be drilled down to 3 or 4, maybe 5 or something like that. So we will have a few big ones and a couple of small ones, and that will be it, so to speak. But there's been one starting. I've seen a new one every month for the last year, and a lot of them will. Some of them will get traction, and some of them get big, like Foundry have gotten a huge following, but some of them will fizzle out, and some of the other ones, I doubt Fantasy Grounds right now, because I can say that because I have no interest in for or against them, so to speak. But I'm worried about Fantasy Grounds.
There's a lot of nice things that Fantasy Grounds is coming out with that are I've, as a sort of insider, can say that there are not a lot of nice stuff coming out. But again, they need to step up the game to keep up with Foundry and all those companies, just to make sure that they can keep up along with everybody. And it's just one of those things. I like I said, I personally don't use Fantasy Grounds anymore because
Yeah.
I have a group that wants to play Theater of the Mind.
Yeah.
And I ran one session where my players were arrested for destroying a town. They didn't have anything to do with the destruction of the town, but they were arrested, and they were all, oh my God, just like rapt attention on me. I wouldn't have got that if I had a virtual tabletop that I was running that, because I was describing what the evil witch was doing. I was describing the table setting. I was describing how the wizard was frozen, and they were all just like, and when I went end of scene, they looked at me like, holy crap. What did you do? I said, you just been framed for destroying a complete village, and you couldn't do a damn thing. You watched it happen in front of you.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh my God. And then I'm messing with them constantly with visions of the witch that did all this popping up, and like her face will appear in the river when they go to get a drink. Her face will appear on the wall when they're looking at a building or in a glass of a window. Her face will appear and she's just cackling. I just mess with them constantly like that, and they're just like, oh my God,
It's called
stop.
mind games.
It
I
is.
have
It's
a
mind
mind. I have a
games.
mind
Yeah.
games emote.
Yep.
Can I ask
Yep.
you guys a question? I know that Jay will, so his answer, I know his answer already, but Alyssa and Linda, and also everyone in chat, will you consider using a VTT, 2D or 3D, doesn't matter, a VTT when you sit and play around a table, or would that be a no-no?
Never.
I would not do it. No,
Mm-hmm.
no, because again, theater of the mind is lacking when you're playing in a 3D world.
Yeah.
Now, if Jay's style is that way, perfectly fine and dandy.
Everyone's
But
style
for
is
me, that eliminates the theater of the mind for my players.
Mm-hmm.
Because, whether you're describing a city street with different styles of buildings or whatever level of detail you go to, make sure players think more.
Yeah.
And that I think that's where a lot of the new stuff is making it so the players don't have to think.
Yeah.
They're making it too detailed.
Yeah, the question was, Robaliax, was would you consider using a VTT for around the tables when you're in real life sitting around the
What
table?
about you,
Would
Alyssa?
you?
No.
Yeah.
I mean, you were all
Like
big scale battles and stuff, right? For your group. Alyssa?
Well, and so it big scale battles, no, but yes, and all of the above, but yet none of them. If you think about it, it really depends on the game system that I'm running, and even down to the encounter level. I would probably do it less for Call of Cthulhu, for everything that Linda just said.
Mm-hmm.
But there are some encounters in Call of Cthulhu where a big battle map type of thing is appropriate. There is, sorry, a little bit of a spoiler, everyone. There is a location in Masks of Nyarlathotep that is freaking huge, and if you turn up at the right or wrong, I should say, time, there are hundreds of cultists there. The landscape is 3D, of course, and like just trying to imagine it from a description, especially if you get into a battle, it can get kind of complex. Did I actually have a map on the table for that one? Yes, it was one of few. Would I do it more often for Dungeons and Dragons? I would, because Dungeons and Dragons is more hack and slash. Dungeons and Dragons is way more battle map after battle map after battle map. Now, granted, there are the scenes where you describe the city with the multiple arches and everything. No, I'm not putting a map on the table for that. But a hack and slash through a dungeon, yeah, I would VTT some of this stuff. But I would do it, honestly, if I'm going to be fair, like Linda does it. I would have a touch screen tablet, big tablet, or like a TV with like sensors, etc. around it. I would have a map on the table, whether I drew it or not. I'd have miniatures, real miniatures, on top of the TV.
That's exactly what I'm going to be doing this tomorrow night.
But there you go, right? And maybe I'd get some fog of war going in there, some lighting effects going on in there. I love to play audio. I love having audio going in the background, so I'd probably have that going on some surround sound. I would do it that way. I would do a virtual J.
Yeah. And
definitely.
the reason I wanted to ask this was that I was thinking, now I played for since COVID started, I played everything. Every game have been virtual. and most of my gaming
That
will
was-
probably be virtual. But I
One
was
sec.
thinking, okay, now
You all
we go
died.
back to normal post COVID, and what if because now I'm starting to set up. I have my setup with Obsidian. I have Albert Rodeo, and all, I use my maps and tokens and stuff like that. I was thinking, what if I needed to go to a game store, because that's how we game mostly in California. We go to a game store and people meet up and sit around the table. How would I game then? Because then all of a sudden I will miss my Albert Rodeo and move the tokens around and use my maps, because they look better than what I can scribble using dry erase markers. So I would probably suggest that everyone comes and bring their laptop, and they can use Albert Rodeo on their laptops, and I use it on my laptop, and then I can use my dry erase markers as a stand-in if we want to have like a scene in a room or something like that. That I might to improvise, then I might take out the dry erase markers. But for the more that I have a little bit of prep for, I will probably do that in Albert Rodeo at the table as well, I think.
That's something that's unique about my local game store.
Yeah.
They have probably 10 shelves that are loaded with terrain that you can use on your gaming table when you're playing.
Okay.
They have
Yeah.
the big neoprene mats across the tables.
Mm-hmm.
You can use any of this terrain, whether it be Warhammer, 40K, or you can use Necromunda stuff. You can use Flames of War minis. You can do all that stuff.
That's cool.
They have all of that stuff sitting on shelves that
Mhm.
you can build whatever kind of a town you want just by
Yeah.
walking over to their shelf and saying, I want to use this, I want to use this, I want to use that, and I want to use that. There's my village. So I don't have to worry about having virtual tabletops or anything like that at the local game store, which is one thing I think is very unique about my store. I've
Mhm.
been to a
Yeah.
lot of different game stores and I've never seen anything like that.
Oh yeah, we didn't. I
Um,
haven't seen that much here.
And I don't care if people figure out where I live or whatever. I'm going to tout my local game store, Little Big Wars in Fargo, North Dakota. For a little tiny town in North Dakota, we are probably one of the best game stores I've seen in a lot of different states.
That
and
sounds really good, Linda.
Yeah.
We have a game store very similar to that. They have a similar setup to what you're talking about. Guardian Games. I'll give them a shout out.
Yep, me too.
But Portland, Oregon is maybe a little bit larger, so maybe you would expect that from the largest game store in Portland.
But it's just something I never experienced until I went to this local game store, and I didn't even know these guys existed up
I
until
think
2
you
years
need a
ago.
gamer in charge of like more than just a Magic the Cards gathering sort of business guy. You need, I don't know, just someone that understands Necromunda, understands Warhammer,
And
understands
that's
what players want to reach out for and grab, right?
Yep. And that's the owner of this place. He
That's what I'm
plays
talking about.
Necromunda, he plays 40K, he plays Flames of War, he plays the male reenactment games. He plays all of this stuff. So he's the one who started this. He built all these models himself, a lot of them.
Nice.
A lot of times he'll open up a thing and have somebody in the store build it for him, and then they'll go on the shelf to be used by other people that come into play in the store.
That's generous, because human beings are like, I'm going to tap your mini.
It is very generous, and that's what makes that store unique.
That's
The other
awesome.
stores in town, which there's 2 other ones that I know of, also do not do that, but they are huge into Magic the Gathering. So are we. But we have the role-playing game side of it that they don't have.
That's the
So-
magic combination.
Mhm,
Yeah. Oh God, Jay's
So-
showing off again. He just showed up right in the background. He did. He showed up.
What? No, I'm not.
Sorry, Jay. Sorry, Jay, but my store has you beat. Mhm,
You sure about that?
Yeah, but
Absolutely
that's
positive.
impressive, Jay. Yeah, that is
Mhm.
impressive, my friend.
Yep.
Mm.
Between all the Necromunda stuff and stuff we
Oh
have on the
yeah,
shelf.
Necromunda
Yeah.
maybe. Yeah.
Necromunda 40K, they have all the Flames of War stuff too built up. So
Yeah.
they're going to
Mine's,
give you a run for their money. I'll say that.
mine's D&D. Yeah. For the most, some BattleTech stuff mixed in.
Yep. But no, to me that's the ultimate in-person gaming experience, when you can have a place like that anybody's welcome. There's not any rules. They ask you keep your language polite if you're with kids around in the room. Other than
Yeah.
that, you can play anything you want. They even have demo games. They've opened board games and they sit them on the table and say, play. We don't care. And that's something a lot of stores don't do because they're afraid people are going to ruin the games or whatever. That's the whole point, is to get people involved in the games. So I mean,
Awesome.
it's just phenomenal. We just opened up, what game was it? Vampire the Masquerade, I think, Rivals or something like that. It's can hold up to 32 players in the game, and it is a massive game. They opened it up and put it on as a demo on the table. I said, "Here you go, finger it, play it all up, do whatever you want with it. You know, if it gets ruined, we'll just mark it off as ruined. You know." But they let people see it. They let them look at the book. They let them look at the pieces, and
They're
so
trying
you're not
to,
just staring at this little
yeah,
box.
what they're trying
going,
to do is get
"What is
future
that?"
customers too, and I understand that
Mhm.
completely. It makes total sense.
Yep. And we also partner with the local library doing D&D for kids. So the local library runs it like once a month, and we have little kids come in and get started in D&D. And that was one of our other friends who happens to be in the industry publishing that decided we're going to do that for kids in town. You know, give them something besides sports.
You've met Two King Games, right?
Two King, no. Mine is Gallant Night Games.
Randy and Jeff, Two
We
King
met
Games.
them at Game Hall Con.
Yeah, Two King
Yeah,
Games do games for kids.
I
They
met
have-
so many people at Game Hole Con. I can't keep
Oh, yeah,
track
but
of
we
who's
met
who.
them.
No, but
I know.
they do
Yeah.
games for
Mhm.
kids. They have
Perfect.
like a 4 to
Perfect.
8
Mhm.
bracket, and they
Yep.
have like an 8 to
That they're
12
awesome.
bracket.
Yeah.
Like a Little Feet, I think is a CD Tiny, and they run game for children, and
Yes.
they're such cool guys, and their games are freaking awesome. They do exactly what you're talking about.
Yep, but it's not something that's normally done in this area, especially because it's a very conservative area, and it's all farmers. A lot of it is, it's getting to be bigger and bigger in industry, but it's a lot of heavy farmers, and they believe in sun up to sundown, you work, kind of thing. So it's one of those things that I just love to see in games or in game shops, especially is, they have all the good stuff, all the books you could ever want, they have, or they can get it for you, and they're more than willing to do custom orders. But they have the people that have the experience playing the games actually working there, which a
Nice.
lot of the places don't have, sadly,
A
or
lot of
they're
places-
focused on one game only.
A lot of places it's just so hard to keep the doors open now.
It is. It
Yeah.
is. It's very, very hard. It is.
Definitely. So I know we were running over time, which
Yep.
is cool, but
have-
we got to do this because I know a lot of the great. I somehow I changed my stinger transition in the middle of this, and I have no idea what I did.
Uh-oh.
I got to figure that out. But so, Alyssa, any of the ones you gave me, I can share. Correct?
Anything I gave you, you can share instead of the full map. Yes.
I don't have the full map.
One has been colored, everyone, and it is releasing at the end of the month. So just to explain,
gorgeous.
just to explain to everyone, Greyhawk Online, online and magazine, they are not paying me for this. They pay my colorist, and for that they get the exclusive release, except for my patrons. My patrons, so at the end of the month, are going to get the fully colored high-res version of Wantham, and every 2 to 3 months we're going to release another one.
That's awesome.
So this here is the exclusive
Sneak peeks.
sections,
Yeah, sneak peek.
sneak peeks of this. So I would encourage you, check out Greyhawk Online. Check out actually signing up. There is a physical magazine. You should really the Earth Journal.
Yep.
Go check it out. Look at that one. This is beautiful. It really seriously is beautiful. I did the map. Jesus Christ. Woohoo! Found myself down, everyone. And then check out my Patreon. Patreon.com
Just linked it.
/Alyssa Faden. Honestly, again, I'm doing this on my own time because I want to give like the fans of Greyhawk something seriously super freaking sexy. I draw little tiny details all over the maps. I don't know any other style. I'm going to give you something to love for many, many years to come. This is a sneak peek that Jay is showing you right here.
And we are going to really enjoy this and all the future ones. What's the next town?
Krakenheim.
Krakenheim.
We're going Viking. So we've got a list.
Cool.
Blue is on the list.
Awesome.
And I will say that blue had a lot of votes by people wanting to see blue, but Krakenheim Viking style, like it's
That's awesome.
Nordic, like frozen wastes. Anna and Linda both helped me out with a little bit of the background lore on this one. It gave me a lot of seeds. So, and by the way, girls, you helped me enormously. I got it. I got Krakenheim in my head up here.
Good.
So we're gonna draw, and it's a smaller population too, like just about, I think, 2.5, 3.5, 4,500 people.
Oh, okay.
But it's as much. So what you're gonna get is zoomed in detail. We're gonna start drawing like thatch and roof slats and shit on this. So we're gonna be doing Krakenheim, long beaches dragged up and everything.
It's gonna be awesome.
It's gonna be beautiful, and probably a different coloring, right? We'll probably give it a little bit of a snow.
Like a bluish icy
That's
look.
nice.
It will be
Okay.
cold, since it's kind of semi-Arctic, really cold temperate up there. So
that will be the next one, and I aim to have that done in the next couple of months. And I will be mapping it on Anna's Friday night shows.
Awesome. So we keep the fun coming, which is great. So there'll be a Friday night show next week, but the week after that's Virtual GrowdCon. So that's how quick. That's how quick that's coming. So awesome and exciting, Alyssa. And thank you. And plus, Alyssa will probably be highly involved in a great style of what we're doing for Altamira 2 in the next year or so, whenever that gets finalized and everything. But we got meetings coming up with Controller Games on that. More details to come probably next month's Fantasy Mapping Show. So why don't we do some shout outs here, and then we'll do the giveaway, then we'll find someone to raid into. So Linda, what else is going on in your world? Is there anything you want to
My big things are 2 Fantasy Grounds modules for Kobold Press, Toma Beast 3 and Toma Beast 3 Layers.
Okay.
I will be getting the files fairly soon to do for Wastes of Chaos, which I just kickstarted, probably towards December, that neighborhood, and that'll be enough of those. But if I keep my 3D stuff off the ground, I might be able to forget about Fantasy Grounds for a while. That would be really, really good. So that's my hope anyway. And it's just one of those things. I'm just going to keep playing with it in my spare time, what spare time I get. Unfortunately, I have a lot of stuff going on. So yeah, that's pretty much my life in a nutshell. I do Kobold Press as my main income. So it's just one of those things. Got to keep them happy and keep forging forward on what I can learn every day. So.
Okay. Well, thank you so very much for coming on tonight.
Yeah,
hope you had a fun time with this discussion. You know?
I did. It's good to get some, air my voice without getting in too much trouble. I tend to get in lots of trouble when
go off on a lot of tangents.
Afterwards on the
comes afterwards.
Forums.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm ready for it. Bring it on. I'm not too worried.
Alyssa, what is going on?
Okay, so a few things, and I'll actually put one thing in the chat right now. So on Sunday morning, 10 Pacific time, which I guess makes that 1 Eastern Standard Time, I am going to be on the Wandering DMs channel. It is a 1-hour podcast. Come check us out. I put a link in the chat here. We are going to be talking about all of my projects that I've got going on, just completed, about to work on, just done for a full hour. It is going to be super sexy Alyssa Faden time. It is just going to be me rolling around in maps. You know you love it. So we're going to be doing that. We might need to do this on the next mapping show. I've got the cosmology map of role playing, so that we're releasing.
There will be a whole show for that one. Yeah,
it didn't get to that one tonight.
So basically around 2012, something like that, there was Gygax magazine #1, and they had me do the cosmology of role playing. And it was basically a Starfield map, oddly, of role-playing games from the Big Bang of TSR in the heart of the universe. And it ended up being a really glorious map. Only had about 60 titles on it, though. So you're going to be a long, long time telling me what's not on there. I'm doing a 2023 version of it with over 1,000 games.
Oh, my gosh.
It is going to be epically huge. My plan is to release it at GaryCon next year.
Nice.
There will be a print of it if you want a poster. And why don't you want a poster? You're a geek and a nerd like me. You want a poster of this thing. And I want you looking at it and telling me what games I've missed. Because I have put in a lot of games I've never freaking heard of. So that's probably my major thing that I'm working on. And of course, gotta say it, Krakenheim.
Yeah.
I'm breaking ground on that thing. And if you want to check in, I will have videos on my YouTube channel for it. And Friday nights when Anna streams, I'll be with her. And I'll be working on Krakenheim for the next 6 weeks or so. And then we'll go into coloring on it and then on to the next one.
That's awesome.
That's what I'm working on.
Thank you so very much, Alyssa. What's up, Anna?
I'm gonna say I'm with my head in I'm a ostrich with my head in sand somewhere trying to hide from everything. No, it's I was dumb enough. Right now I'm in that period I realized was a big mistake to say that I'm going to have both a seminar and run a game, and
Oh, come on, Anna. I do it all the time.
Yeah, I
I'm just
know
kidding.
that, but you're a professional doing it.
Yeah, but Anna's doing it at
yeah.
the same time, Jay.
Yeah, and I haven't streamed the game before, so to speak. So that's why. So I want to have So it's a lot of stuff, and I need to. So I'm. That's why I haven't posted anything on my Patreon for like 2 weeks. I haven't posted. I've been not on Discord, nowhere, so to speak. So I've been having my head in the sand, and I complain to Linda every few days or so just to have someone to gripe at, and
We do it mutually every time.
Yeah, and working really hard on stuff. So there will hopefully be something to look at on this seminar too, but it will not be as much new, but there will be some things at least, so to speak. And also to my game should be fully mapped, and all of a sudden I realized I need stat blocks, I need background stories, and I'm a
Pre-gens.
Exactly, and pre-gens and stuff. So I'm a chronic over prepper, and you can imagine what a chronic over prepper does when challenged with the first kind of public appearance. You're going to run a game in front of a lot of people and stuff like that. So I don't want to make a complete fool of myself. And thankfully, I have wonderful players.
I know you will be glorious, girl.
It's going to be fun.
So it will be fun. Yeah. So
considering one little real quick thing about you as a DM. You had us snowed completely for 3 sessions that we were in a freaking dream.
Yeah.
So you can't tell me that you're not going to do fine.
Yeah.
We didn't have a clue.
Yeah. So
we were in a dream team.
that was kind of that was the highlight so far of this campaign. So it was
awesome.
Other than my character dying like 40 times ish.
No,
and
only like
saved
3 times, I think. You haven't done permanently. No one has done permanently.
No one has permanently died, but my character went
yeah.
down the first encounter. She was like one swipe,
You've been
and I was
close
down,
to dying a whole bunch of times. There's been near TPKs every other session. So yeah,
absolutely, yeah.
Yeah.
So we just go, more missile stuff.
Yeah. So I have to say so sorry to my patrons, and I have more patrons than ever. That's why I feel so bad. But the plus side will come later on, because all of this stuff that I'm not using for prepping the game, for prepping my seminar and stuff, it will trickle out and come out in chunks afterwards, so to speak. So there will be maps, of course, galore, and there will be a lot of previews and stuff, and there will be I will have to dungeon maps and stuff, and you guys have to scrutinize me on what you want my style to look like, so to speak. Is this good enough to put on Patreon for Greyhawk stuff, or should we change things and stuff? So this will be a first, and I want to have constructive criticism on them, because it's a new era on my, or a new it was not style, but a new scope on my map. I'm moving into local maps, so to speak, and this is kind of a new for me to do on a semi-professional level, so to speak. So I want that to people to tell me if they work in their games or not, and so on. So, and then there's so there is a whole bunch, and I have so many projects that are 25 to 50% done. So and then this came, and I realized that, oh, now it's Virtual Greyhound. So I put them all on the back burner for a month. And we have Altimira that is soon about halfway done it's like 30% done from my perspective, so to speak. And now when we have Alyssa on board on some of this stuff, that means that it will be so much cooler, and I can sire. I know I will have professional help, so to speak, when it comes to some of the aspects that are my weaker spots. So,
and I'm going to run around behind Alyssa, tapping her on the shoulder. I want to play in one of your Cthulhu games.
Yep.
Come on, I want to play.
I got you, Boo. I got you. I'll hook you up.
Yeah.
All
So
right,
I
cool.
just wanted to tell all my patrons, thank you so much for having faith in me. Right now, there is a lull that will be changed. That will definitely change. So there is a whole bunch of stuff coming, so to speak, and there's a bunch of new stuff ramping up. So it's a lot of ramping up, putting through, and then you have the convention on top of it. So but I think you will be happy with a lot of the stuff coming. So yeah.
2 weeks.
Cannibal says whip crack. Animal.
Yes, Troy.
Get going.
Yep.
2 weeks from tonight, the con will be well moving forward for day one. So let me do this real quick here. And we'll, so the rest.
I have one more thing. Sorry.
No,
on Greycast, that I recorded an episode with them a couple of days ago. That's coming out, I think, Monday before the convention. So that will air when I talk about a lot of the projects and stuff.
Very cool.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome to hear.
And
so
with my tie-in with Anna, I'll keep working on Greyhawk stuff as time permits. So I'll keep working on things, refining things. And if you guys are interested, give me a shout out that you want me to do something. I'll think about starting a Patreon, but you won't see me much on social media because I abhor social media. So
it's okay.
You'll see me on Facebook, but other than that, I probably won't be on any social media.
I find it's a necessary evil. For being
maybe we'll see.
Yeah, for Twitch it is. So this is stream 3. It's off tomorrow night, and then we got something going on Sunday. There'll be 4 streams in 5 nights. We're gonna do some campaign development. We're gonna delve into some really old Dragon Magazine articles, events in the southern and eastern Flannis, some other classes. Anna and Tim will be joining me, and we'll have that fun discussion on Sunday night on Gavin, and then we'll start another week next week. So the week before GrailCon. The only other big event, which is 2 weeks after GrailCon, is the Slav Squad returns, the all-female cast plus Josh. And we haven't even gotten a special guest or a title for that yet, but that's Saturday, October 15th. And GrailCon is 2 weeks. If you're a DM, please contact your players. Start doing that now, please. I sent that general email out to everyone today. We need to start getting there. You need to start getting them to pre-gens. There's a lot of games that are filled, so we're really excited to see to have everyone, have a good time for that coming up in a couple weeks. All right. I'm losing my voice, so let's do the giveaway here. $25 gift certificate from Frog God. Let's see who the winner is. Last call, sign up, exclamation drawing. Give you 10 seconds if you haven't. All right. And we'll see who that goes to, and I can get you that code right away. Thank you, Zudrak, for getting that to me. And here we go, closing this out. The winner, Seeker of Oblivion. Congrats.
Oh, nice.
Nice.
There you go, congrats.
Very active tonight. Nice.
Yeah.
You are welcome, Cannibal. It was a lot of fun.
It was a wonderful discussion, Alyssa and Linda. Thank you so very much for participating tonight. That was really a great discussion. I know that we'll have more of these down the road as this technology develops. No doubt about it.
Yep.
So Josh has been haranguing me. Zarathon, he's playing in Goodman Games' game with Grape Ape is DMing, so I'm going to raid in Goodman right now.
Let's do it.
So, all right, everyone, see you Sunday night. Have a good one, and thank you for a great discussion. Talk to you soon.
Bye, guys.
Yep, voice is still cracking there, Anna.
Yeah.
Oh, thanks, Patrick, for doing that.
Yep.
Let me do this here. Let me do this
Thank
here.
you, Antiquitas. Yep.
Raid. Let's see if we can give them a nice big boost up here. nice. Alrighty. Almost 56, 57, 58. Thank you very much. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. See you Sunday night. Good. Should have gone.
Wow.
Cool, cool.
That's a good raid. That's a good raid.
Yeah. Make sure it's went here. Turn off the stream.